3, 2. Jamie with the quick count. Jimmy Dore. We're live.
Oh, fantastic.
Do you use headsets or no?
Oh, should I wear a headset? I'll wear a headset.
It's up to you. I just feel lonely if I'm the only guy with headsets.
Oh, okay.
Is that better?
Oh, I got some. I got the pipes going. Hey, what time is it? It's 11:01. 1 minute after 11. 59 minutes from the top of 12 hours.
Did you ever do that? Did you ever do like a regular radio show?
In college. I had a radio show, but it wasn't real. It just broadcast to no one, actually, it turned out.
To the campus? Was it just to the campus?
It was supposed to be going out to the campus, and then we found out about 3 months in it wasn't going out to anybody.
I always had dreams of doing a radio show, but I always knew that I would fuck it up. You know, I'm like, I'd get fired or something. I never thought anybody would hire me. You know?
I got in trouble at that station for playing the same song 3 times in a row.
Because it was so good?
Yeah, I liked it.
What was the song?
I don't even remember. It was like some off-brand. I never heard of them, like the Rabini Brothers. I was like, that's a fun song.
They fired you from a college station?
They didn't fire me. They came in and they yelled at me. And I was like, this isn't even going out to anyone. And if it was a nice day and I had to do my radio shift, I would just come in and simulcast with the FM, because I was on AM, and simulcast with the FM station, because I wanted to go out in the quad. I want to sit in that studio. It was a nice day.
I wonder if anybody has done this. I mean, I don't think you could do it and put ads on it, but you could do it as just a fun project, have your own radio show on a podcast where you just play songs. Could you do that, Jamie?
No, I think because you can't if you give people a download of a song, that's illegal.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's why, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you could stream it, though, maybe? Like stream it on YouTube?
Maybe.
Maybe, but not.
But you'd still have to pay some kind of royalties for those songs. I don't know what.
Even if you weren't making any money off of it, you'd have to pay?
I think so. If someone's streaming your jokes, they have to pay.
Yeah, but the thing is, nobody wants to hear your jokes more than once. That's the problem with jokes.
That's not true, Joe.
Really?
All right, first of all, let me blow smoke up your ass a little bit. I'm not actually. It's just sincere. So I've seen you do comedy before. I saw you. We did the 2004, I think it was the Aspen Festival. We were on the opening night show at the Wheeler Opera House. And then I saw you do sets at the Improv. And I always thought you were funny, you know, but I never remembered any of your jokes. And then I saw you at the Comedy Store a couple weeks ago, and I've been doing your act ever since. I've been telling your jokes everywhere I go to anybody who will listen, and everybody falls down laughing. Those jokes that you have, first of all, the joke about Weinstein is just so goddamn funny. And then the joke about the wrestling, god damn it. You know,
man.
And it's hard for me to not say them right in your face right now. I know that would be not good if I did your jokes right to you, but I can't not do. Those are some of the funniest jokes I've heard in a long time, and I know people are going to be saying, oh, he's such a kiss ass. I'm not kidding. I love comedy and I love jokes, and I can remember jokes that I like. And that Harvey Weinstein joke, that's so goddamn funny.
I'm in a rush to get that onto a Netflix special because I'm worried it's going to get old.
Yeah, right.
Because right now, you know, it's like it happened a couple of months ago. It's still okay. And I'm recording in April. And I'm like, boy, April is like The Wire. That's like Under the Wire.
Yeah. I think it'll be okay because there's not going to be a bigger raper or whatever, then Harvey Weinstein could come. He's the pinnacle, right?
Right. Like if you had a Cosby joke today, it's still okay because he's such a raper.
That's right. I forgot Cosby. You're right.
How could you forget? Did you see the recent shit where Cosby was at a barbershop? There's videos of him hanging out at the barbershop talking about jazz trivia with all the barbershop guys in Philly.
No.
Yeah. He actually performed recently at a jazz club. Yeah, he showed up at this jazz club and performed, and then announced that he was going to perform at another place. He's back while he's in between trials.
Wow. So, see, that's the weird thing. I always wondered, like, he was still selling tickets.
Yeah.
Like, people will still show up to see him.
Well, before anyone knew for sure what was going on, there was a couple of accusations, and everybody was like, what is this? Like, what is this really? Is this real? Is this someone doing a shakedown? And then they started, the fucking tsunami of accusations started piling in, which is really incredible when you think about it, how many years that guy was doing that.
It's unbelievable how he could get away with that for so long. And
It's terrifying.
And then now it's like you just go on a bad date and you get in trouble.
Like Aziz Ansari?
Yes.
Yeah, that's horrible, right?
No.
Yeah, now, well, it's the pendulum swings. You know, I think it's kind of open season on men right now, and it'll swing back around and it'll be normal again. And, you know, it makes sense. I mean, there's so many of these accusations that happen, you know, after a while, they pile up, and then there's this like anti-male resentment, and then it'll swing back and it'll normalize, and people are sort of reacting to the Aziz thing, and they say, well, that went a little too far. And then the woman who was in charge of the California woman who was a big Me Too supporter, she got busted. Did you see that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, she was grabbing some dude's dick and grabbing his ass, and she was drunk, and she's a congresswoman.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You ever have a girl do that to you?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been grabbed. You know, like Bill Burr said this famously, and he was 100% correct. It's after shows, drunk women in their 40s, they get a little liquored up, they get crazy, and they'll go for it.
They get a little grabby.
They grab that ass. They'll go for it.
And, you know, did you feel violated?
No, you know, it's anybody who says it's not different for men is just a liar. It's not physically scary. It's like if my daughter comes and punches me and kicks me, you know, like she'll do that for fun, just as a joke. It's not threatening, right? It's fun. It's silly. But if you did it, I'd be like, hey, man, don't fucking hit me.
Right.
Like a man hits you, it's different. Like if a man is trying to grab a woman's ass, you're talking about someone larger grabbing someone smaller. It's scary. It's dangerous. The real threat of rape is actually there.
Right.
No 40-year-old lady's going to rape me. You know? It's not going to happen unless I want her to. It's just not. It's not going to go down that way. Like I'd have to be really sick. There'd be something really wrong with me.
Well, there was this guy, and see, this is how I like remembering jokes. I haven't seen this guy probably tell jokes for 25 years. His name is Paul Kelly, and it was right in the 80s, or at the end of the 80s, when women were in the workforce, and that was like One Day at a Time. Remember that show? It was all about women. And so things were weird in the workplace. Men didn't know how to talk to women and how to act, and then they would go, oh, she's just like one of the guys. Remember that? They would say that. That was the highest compliment you could give a woman. She's like one of the guys. We don't have to act weird around her. And this guy, Paul Kelly, that's when people started to talk about sexual harassment. And he said, see, men, we don't understand what that is. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait a minute, you mean you're going to touch my dick while I type and I get insurance?
Well, we say that, but my friend TJ, do you know The Amazing Atheist? Do you know who he is?
Oh, I do know who he is. I've seen his show bits on YouTube.
Very funny guy.
Yeah.
He told me, and he's kind of an introvert, he told me that he was working in an office once and a woman who was his boss was sexually harassing him. And it was completely unwanted, and she would grab him and he would lock up, he'd freeze and be uncomfortable, and it was gross. You know, he said he was real, but he's a big guy. I mean, he wasn't physically in danger. I'm sure it felt super uncomfortable, but it's always going to be a notch, several notches less scary.
Well, because she can't take out her dick and stick it in you.
There you go.
That's a big difference.
That's right. The thing is the violation, right?
Yeah.
That's like the fact that someone could physically hold you against your will and just stick
penetrate
something
you.
in you.
Yeah.
Get into your body.
Yes, inside of you.
Yeah, like a woman literally can't do that. She can engulf you. That could be scary. Mm-hmm. Someone engulfing you. Like, oh, Jesus.
Engulfing.
It just doesn't seem as scary, though. It's just not the same violation.
What happened, officer? Well, he said he was engulfed.
He engulfed my dick with his ass. He just took it over.
Just tell your Weinstein joke. Just tell it.
No, can't do it. It'll be on... I'm recording in April, so it's close. We're only 2 months away.
Have you done that wrestling joke on a special?
No, that's all. All the stuff's new. It's all the stuff is from my last special, which was last year, to now.
Well, I have been. What makes I think that set stick in my mind also is that it made me jealous. Right? Like, when I don't know if you get jealous. I still get jealous when I see someone doing something better than me and I want to do it. And I'm like, God damn it. It made me want to get out and because I haven't been doing comedy as much. And it's like a muscle. I think Jerry Seinfeld said, if I don't do comedy for about 4 days, I notice a difference. And if I don't do comedy for 5 days, they can notice. So I haven't been, since I started my YouTube show, I haven't been doing stand-up as much as I should, and I stopped touring like I should, and I miss it. I want to do another special. And that night of comedy at the Comedy Store made me go, God damn it. I got to get out here and start. What the fuck am I doing?
That's the highest compliment you could pay a comic.
God damn it. It was
I felt that many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that feeling of just being inspired. I just want to go home and write.
Yeah, and I was, my set went fine, but it wasn't. I'm not on my game right now.
Right.
I have to really start working it again, which I have started, and I'm going out, and I forgot. It's like, this is all I ever wanted to do in my life was stand-up comedy.
Right.
And like being a stand-up comic to me was like being Ray Liotta in Goodfellas. Like, I didn't wait in line. I fucking wanted something. I took it. I don't fucking follow rules or listen to your bullshit. I fucking do what I want. I say what I want, and they pay me for it.
Right.
And I just fucking love that shit. And and then I started doing the YouTube show, and it becomes a job, right, for me, and it's a grind in a sense. And doing comedy, I so miss sleeping till noon and then getting up, working out, all you had to do is figure out, who am I going to have lunch with today? That was my big decision.
Right.
Who am I going to have lunch with? Then I go home after the lunch, I have a nap, then I go out and do a show. It was the greatest life in the world. Why did I fuck it up?
But you must enjoy doing your YouTube show too, right?
I do, because it helps me too discover who I am more. Because as a stand-up, I was like Bill Hicks was my favorite guy. When I saw Bill Hicks in Chicago, I almost quit. Because I was in comedy about 3 or 4 years, and I was like, I fucking know what I'm doing,
Right.
And before I got on stage, I'd be like, wait till they get a load of me. I was like that guy. Oh, I'm the fucking baddest ass in Chicago. And then everybody talked about this guy, Bill Hicks, right? And I was like, I'm going to check this guy out. So I sat down, and he starts his set, and about 2 minutes in, I started drinking, and then about 5 minutes in, I started drinking more, and about 10 minutes in, I was convinced I was going to quit comedy, because my whole life, I always thought, like, George Carlin was my hero, and I was like, if I do everything right, I could maybe be like George Carlin for one special. Like, maybe if I get everything right and I really work it. And I saw Bill Hicks, and I knew I was always going to be competing for second place. And so when he died, it made me feel a lot better. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm back.
Oh, that's the worst.
No, it was the saddest thing when he died, of course. He was my hero. And, I didn't really know him. I knew him tangentially. And it was weird to feel that kind of sadness for someone who you don't know personally. And so that was a big deal to me, watching Bill Hicks. It totally changed my life. And I tried to be like him, of course, like an idiot. I tried to be like him, and you can't, right? And and then one time I was dating this girl, and might be my wife. I don't know who told me this, but she said, you don't look like where you come from, because I come from the south side of Chicago, grew up poor, 12 kids, drinking powdered milk, and having the shit beat out of me from the fucking morning till night, right? Because I went to Catholic school, tough neighborhood, and she's like, you can't be angry like Bill Hicks, because you look like you come from privilege, money, and you're dressed well. I always like to dress nice because I grew up poor. I always wanted to be. And so that's when I had to pull back on the anger on stage. And I was like, if you watch my specials on Comedy Central, I'm very nice. And doing the YouTube show is what let me connect with my anger, which is always what drives me.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that is what has connected with people. And that's when I really started selling tickets, and everything I wanted to get from comedy, in a sense, I got from this YouTube show. So now I can go wherever I want and do a show, and just my fans will show up. It's the greatest thing that ever happened in my life.
Well, you're very good on your YouTube show, and you're also very fair. One of the things that I really like about your show is you're obviously a left-leaning guy, but you're very balanced in your criticism of the left, and your criticism of the left. And
if you have to lie to make your point, you don't have a good point.
I agree with you 1,000%. I think so. It's such an important thing that's being missed today.
Yeah, and I don't know that, and I don't know. I've gone back and forth on issues. Everybody, I think you can be allowed to go back and forth on issues. I was against gun control. I was for gun control. Then I was against it again. I mean,
right.
The thing that people give me a lot of I get more of a hard time from people who consider themselves on the left than people who consider themselves on the right.
Today, right?
Today.
This is a new thing, though, isn't
it?
It's a
new thing.
Over the last decade?
Right. It's because...
Maybe less than a decade.
Well, to me, it really started with Bill Clinton in 92, but it didn't get really ramped up until Barack Obama in 2010, when it was clear that Barack Obama was a neoliberal corporatist who was going to do the bidding of the war machine and Wall Street and Big Pharma, which is why when the Democrats got control of government, they had the presidency, the Senate, filibuster-proof Senate for a few months, and they had the Congress and the House, and they didn't pass single payer or even a public option. What did we get? We got a right-wing health care plan anyway, which is a giveaway to the pharma and health insurance companies that left out 28 million fucking people.
And infuriated small business owners, infuriated people that had a small practice, that there were doctors and and all sorts of people that
it
were.
was better than what we had. It was a bad solution. It wasn't a solution. What it was a solution for the pharmaceutical companies and the health insurance companies.
How was it better than what we had? In what way?
Well, because before there was pre-existing conditions and you couldn't get coverage, so then that was supposed to. So now you could always get coverage. And,
so that part was better. The fact that you can get covered even if you had an issue.
Right. So then you could go on an exchange and stuff like that. I never had to do that. I always got through my wife's employer. I always had my health insurance, right? And by the way, having health insurance doesn't really mean that much. I got really sick. You
were talking about this before.
Well, this is a different thing. But I had an illness that they couldn't diagnose for a few years, and it almost killed me. Right? And
what was it?
It was called Hypophosphatemia Osteomalacia.
Whoa, that should be on late night TV,
right.
Like one of those commercials. Do you have osteopharmaceutical?
Do you have side effects include death.
What is it?
It's a bone disease. So my bones were emitting. The bottom line is my bones were. I was having bone disintegration.
Whoa.
So yeah, I used to be much taller. I know that sounds funny, right? That's actually true.
Is that true?
When we met, I was taller than you.
Get the fuck out of here. How tall were you?
I was around 5'10".
And you shrank to 5'8"?
I'm a little under 5'8".
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I know, right? And when that happened, I was going to kill myself.
Did you try to stretch yourself out?
Yes.
Get one of those things they use medieval torture devices. The rack.
So I'm one of those guys who, if I want something, no matter what price I have to pay, physical, whatever, I'll pay it and I'll get that thing I want. Right? Like I'll get it.
But can you mind elaborating on this thing?
Yeah. So I couldn't fix it by stretching. I couldn't fix it.
I was just joking about that. But so what does it do to it's making your bones shrink?
Yeah. So
literally?
it gives you osteoporosis, and then my bones got hollow like an old lady.
Whoa.
And then my spine collapsed when I stepped off. I stepped off a curb, and too hard. And they didn't know what it was. I don't like talking about it too much, but. They told me all different kinds of things. Oh, it's your muscles, it's your nerves, it's in your head, it's in this. And I was limping for a few years, and people were always like, how you doing? I'm like, oh, I'll be all right. And, because no one likes to hear about anybody else's. And,
right.
And so, and then when that happened, they were like, oh, no, it's your bones. I was like, you motherfuckers. So everybody told me that you should go. So I started going to bone doctors, and everybody told me I should go see this guy, Dr. Charles Sharp. And I called him, and he was expensive, and he didn't take insurance. And so I was like, well, I'll go to someone he trained. So I would go to someone he trained. I wouldn't get any better after 6 months. I go to someone else he trained. He wouldn't get any better. So finally, I was just about to die. And I went to see him. I was going to pay the money and go see him. And he figured out what it was like that. And
really?
He says to me, he goes, nowhere you go, no one's going to know what this is. I go, yeah, I know. I've already been everywhere. And he said, I only saw this once before in 1968. And he says, and you have it.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So then,
what causes it?
It was just my own. They didn't know at the time. He thought it was a tumor, but they since figured out it was just my own bones leaching a hormone that makes your body leach the chemicals that I need to make bone. So anyway, this is boring, but
no, it's not boring at all.
So he fixed me, and I started.
How did he fix you?
He just diagnosed me what was wrong and what I needed, and so I need to take supplements, right, for my bones to make bone. Like some people take calcium, so I take this thing called phosphorus because you need phosphorus and calcium and vitamin D to make bone.
Right.
So, so we did that, and it was amazing. He's just an amazing doctor, and he's very right wing, as far as I can tell. Right. He doesn't like to talk politics, but it comes up, and he was in the military and all this stuff, and he's just a great guy. I just love him. He's so smart. And he fixed me. So getting back to when I was going to kill myself. So when I stepped off the curb and I shrunk, and I was shrunk even more. They did an operation that gave me about an inch back. I was even shorter, right? So I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, this is like I wanted to kill I was literally going to kill myself.
What was the operation they did? They had to put something in your spine?
Kyphoplasty,
Like
so
a bar or something like that?
They
Keeps it from
cement.
collapsing?
They puff it up and then they stick cement in it.
Oh, Jesus
I know.
Christ.
Anyway, but so I was serious. I was like, I cried one day. I couldn't stop. I didn't know how to stop. And my eyes puffed up like I couldn't see almost. And I was going to do it. I was like, I'll just kill myself. And the only thing that kept me from not killing myself was my manager called me and he said, hey, you got that hour special on Comedy Central. And I was like, what?
Saved your life.
I was like, what? Talk about it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Wow.
I could not believe. I'm like, what? And then I just knew I had to do this special because I couldn't let all those motherfuckers who said I shouldn't move to L.A. and be I couldn't let them win. It was about that. It was about I'm going to show everybody who doubted me and said I was crazy I'm going to show them. I'm going to do this goddamn special. It's going to be fucking awesome. And then I'll kill myself.
Jesus Christ, Jimmy.
And by the time, so I had to get this, anyway, long stories. I had to get this operation in my leg. It was the Bo Jackson surgery.
You got a hip replacement?
And it was the thigh bone was dying. And I went to, so my doctor sends me to this other doctor who invented the operation at USC. And I walk into the office, just like my doctor predicted. He's looking at my chart and he looks up and he goes, what? I've only seen this in books, meaning what I have.
Wow.
And I was like, that's what Dr. Sharp said. And so he was going to give me this operation. He goes, we're going to take this bone out from your shin. We're going to put it in there. And then you can't step on that foot for 6 months straight. And I said, I have an hour special. I'm taping in 8 months. I go, so I can't do this operation. He goes, well, your thigh could just snap at any moment. And I go, I guess that's the chance I got to take.
Holy shit.
Because if I can't do this special, I'm going to kill myself anyway. Yeah, give a fuck, right?
Wow.
So by the time we got to do the special 8 months later, Dr. Sharp's treatment had kicked in, and they didn't know it was going to fix it, but it fixed it. They're like, it fixed it.
Holy shit. You could have got that crazy operation for nothing?
For nothing.
Fuck, man. So his treatment is just supplements.
Yeah.
And do you take that to this day?
Every day, every time I eat, I have to take 2 phosphorus pills.
Did you alter your diet?
No, he tells me to make sure I eat meat because I need whatever it's in it I need.
The stuff?
Yeah. Whatever's in it.
Whatever the good stuff is?
He'll look at me like, he goes, you're from Chicago, right? And I go, yeah, you eat meat. Like that.
Like, you're not one of those fucking plant-eating assholes.
Like, you're not one of those, are you?
Right.
And it's sad that I'm turning into one of those now. God damn it.
What, plant-eating asshole?
Yeah. Well,
How
I
so?
saw this fucking video about cows.
I've seen those too.
Where no, not those. Yeah. So in I don't know, Norway or Denmark, I don't know where, somewhere over there, they have a law that you have to let the cows out of the barn in the spring by this one day.
Oh, you're talking about the one when the cow jumps out and starts bouncing around?
Like a dog.
Yeah, I've seen
and so
that.
they all come out and they start jumping around like dogs.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't eat my dog.
Right.
You know, and that was the first like, oh Jesus. And then I accidentally saw this video about a pig, and I can't eat pigs anymore. I can't eat pork. I can't. And I'm that close to not eating meat, but I eat a lot of pasta. You know, I like to cook.
But your doctor said, but pasta's terrible for you.
I know, right? I eat whole wheat pasta.
Oh, that's not any better for you.
That's not better?
No, it's terrible for you. Whole wheat pasta has the same amount of gluten in it. It's the same amount of sugars in it. It's maybe slightly better than refined pasta. Like wheat bread is slightly better than white bread, but it's all bullshit. It's all just filler.
Like
there's very few nutrients.
But 7-grain bread is better.
It's all horseshit, man. Bread is horseshit. It's not good for you.
Don't do this to me.
It just is. Wheat is just not a good food. It's a good filler. I mean, if you're starving, it'll keep you alive. I mean, that's literally what they invented it for. You know, they ground up wheat and figured out a way to cook it. And the wheat that we're eating today is not heirloom wheat. It's all wheat that's been adjusted and genetically modified so that it has higher yield in smaller areas. Like, there's a documentary called What's with Wheat. It's really fascinating.
Really?
Yeah, and they go over the details of, like, what happened with wheat. But it's somewhere around the early 19th century, or 20th century, rather. the early 1900s, they started altering wheat, and they did it so that they can get higher yield in a smaller area. But by doing that, you increase the amount of complex glutens in the wheat. It makes it much more difficult for people to digest, and that's where you see like the elevation of all these gluten sensitivity issues. And people are like, when I was a kid, there was no gluten sensitivity. First of all, nobody knew what the fuck happened. You got fat, you had a heart attack, and you died.
Right.
They really didn't know. They were much less aware of why people were fat. But sugars, wheat, those are two of the biggest problems that we
No
have.
kidding.
Yeah, it's terrible for you.
So when I went to this Chinese medicine doctor, it was back when I was feeling sick, and so I went to, somebody recommended you should go to this Chinese. I'm like, I'll try whatever. So what he did was he changed my diet. So he got me off of white sugar, dairy,
Even brown sugar's terrible for you.
and I'm sure, and and carbs basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me not to drink soda, and I said, well, I drink diet. He goes, that's worse because of the chemicals in it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, holy shit. I'm like, okay. So then he sells you these herbs for $800, and they're a month's supply. So I realized that's all I ate. When I got out of his office, every time I eat, I'm eating white flour, I'm eating bread or a pizza or a pasta or a cheese or everything he told me not to eat, that's all I ate. So I was like, I remember my girlfriend said, how long are you going to do this? I go, at least for a month, because that's how much these herbs are, and the $800, I don't want to. So by day 3, I was leaping out of bed. I could not get over how much energy I had.
Yeah, it's because you don't have that big insulin crash. When you're eating all that sugar and all that bread, your body's just fighting that shit off all the time, trying to process it, and then there's this big crash, boom.
Yeah.
And then you have to take a nap.
What do you eat?
I eat mostly meat and avocados and healthy fats and vegetables. But I hunt, so everything I eat is wild. So when I'm eating meat, I'm eating elk or deer or something along those lines.
You don't feel bad when you see the deer you just shot?
I do feel a sense of loss, but I do also know that this is a wild animal that had no idea what was going on until an arrow hit it. It's not like something that's living in some pen and being tortured and genetically modified and filled with antibiotics and hormones. It's a wild animal, and their life expectancy is very short. They get taken out by bears and wolves and coyotes and pumas. They're not making it. None of them are making it. 0%. They're starving to death. They're freezing to death. What you're doing is just dipping your foot in the wild world. You are taking part in the cycle of life.
So you're against factory farming and
100%.
stuff?
That's why I became a hunter. I was either going to become a vegetarian or I was going to hunt. Those are my two options. I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I experimented with vegetarian back when I was fighting to try to make a weight class. I didn't like it. I just didn't feel good. And then when I started eating meat, I did it for like 6 months. And then when I started eating meat, I got way better, instantly. Instantly started gaining muscle, instantly was fighting better, instantly competed better. And I moved up a weight class. And that's when I became my very best.
What's your weight class? What did you fight at?
At 154 is what I moved up to. I was trying to stay at 140. And I fought at 140 only for a year when I was 18. I just couldn't do it.
Now, did you bring your power with you, Joe, when you went up to 154?
Yes, I did. I got big. Well, I was 18. I was still growing.
Oh, okay.
And I was still thickening up.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was artificially keeping my body very, very thin. I was very lean. But my point is that I knew that when I watched too many of those videos, factory farming should be, fuck insider trading and all the other problems that we have in the world. That's all terrible stuff, right? Terrible stuff. Factory farming is a goddamn crime. It's a horrible crime against life. And the fact that we just do it and that we have ag-gag laws.
Yes, that's what's... That's what
they're insane.
Yeah,
those laws are fucking criminal. They're insane.
It's not America. It's not the America I thought about. I thought we're supposed to have a free press. That's the equalizer. That's what's the difference about us. And now they gag the press. You can't talk about crimes. Well,
they could sue you. They could put you in jail if you film.
Yes, if you film
the tortured animals.
Criminality. If you film a crime.
Right. Exactly.
So they've made. There's some famous saying. What is when exposing a crime is a crime you're ruled by criminals. I don't know if that's the quote, but. Something like that. So we by the way, we're living in this is a lawless time, right? So the law only applies to the poor, It does not apply to war criminals. It doesn't apply to Wall Street. It doesn't apply to anybody.
Giant corporations have figured out a way to skirt the law with money.
If you steal from rich people, that they will get upset. Like Bernie Madoff, he stole from rich people. That was wrong.
He fucked up.
But if you're Jamie Dimon, or if you're Goldman Sachs, or if you steal from poor people or veterans or old lady, that's fine. That's fine. Then you become Secretary of the Treasury, like Steve Mnuchin.
Mnuchin is one of my favorite evil characters of the 21st century. When you see him with his wife, and his wife has gloves on, and they're holding the money, and she's smiling, and when she fucking tags like Gucci and Cartier and all these different like big time companies in her Instagram posts when she's stepping off of a fucking private jet, like holy shit! Look at that picture. I love that picture. First of all, the fact that she would fuck him, that's a crime. That woman is a thief.
That's the power of money.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also prostitution. That's a crime.
You don't think she's hot for him?
No, I do not. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I think if you were there, I'd say, okay. Yeah. He's got a funny personality. He's a good guy. She probably enjoys it. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
but let me just say this. So now, Steve Mnuchin is horrible, and he should probably be in jail. But guess what? He's not in jail. Because why? Because a Democrat didn't prosecute him when she was supposed to. That's Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
So she's corrupted by Wall Street, too. So you point your finger at him. You're like, well, the reason why he's there is because the Democratic Party is corrupted. That's why he's there.
What did he do that he should have
got? Kamala Harris is... So he ran One West Bank, and they investigated his bank, and they found 1,000 instances of criminality. And they said if we...
It's only 1,000, though.
That's what I say. It's 1,000. And...
anything less than 1 million instances, like, what the fuck? It's water under the bridge.
No, can't be picky.
Little this, little that.
Yeah, you got to break a few eggs.
Come on.
Make an omelet. So they said, and if we investigated, we would find 1,000 more instances of criminality. She said, don't. And that was that, and she never had an answer for it. So, and now she's the darling of the corporate class. The same people who anointed Barack Obama and Bill Clinton are the same people who are anointing her. So that's the problem. That's why Barack Obama's entire cabinet came from an email from Citigroup. Okay, so people trying to say that somehow corruption started on January 20th, 2017, are fooling themselves, and that's what I'm fighting against.
Yes,
on my show.
You are, and you're one of the only people that are doing that. You're one of the only people that are online that you're not obligated to shill for the left. You're not doing it. But everybody else seems to be. I don't mean everybody else. If you're one of the people that are not, like, fuck you, Joe Rogan.
There's just a handful of people who are not, Joe.
There's so few. There's so few that are calling out people in the Democratic Party for what really is going on. Like, I was infuriated when people that I knew that I was friends with were trying to tell me that Hillary Clinton was a good choice. And that's the same choice. I'm like... Look, I don't know if she's murdered people, but I know that I worry that she's murdered people. That's I really wonder. Like this Seth Rich shit.
I know. First of all, just leave. You don't even need to go there. You know,
there's so many other things.
There's so many other things that we know for a fact.
The Clinton Foundation, for instance.
So... the Iraq War. I'm old enough, Joe, to remember when being for the Iraq War was a disqualifier in a Democratic primary. That's where I'm from. That's why she lost to Barack Obama the first goddamn time she ran.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we're supposed to... Now people, like Joy Behar says, that was a long time ago. Forget about it. Why don't you go tell that to a soldier's... to a mother who's got a dead soldier? Why don't you go tell them that just died in an illegal war? Why don't you go tell that to a couple 100,000 Iraqis who are dead? Get over it. It was a long time ago. You fuck. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember when also, the Bill Clinton was no friend to the working man. In fact, he was the starting of the demise of this country. So Ronald Reagan scared the shit out of the Democrats so much that they decided to become like them. And so what Bill Clinton did was he got in bed with Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, health insurance, and the Koch brothers. He started a thing called the Democratic Leadership Council with Al Gore. They had executives from the Koch brothers on the Democratic Leadership Council. They completely turned their back on the working man. And what happens when you have two parties that are in bed with management? You get Donald Trump. And that's exactly what happened. They gutted welfare. At the same time, they exploded the prison population, called black kids super predators. At the same time, they did NAFTA. And then they deregulated Wall Street, which crashed the economy within 10 years. That's what Democrats did. Democrats did shit that Ronald Reagan could only fucking dream about in his wet dreams. They couldn't pass NAFTA. George Bush couldn't pass NAFTA. It took Bill Clinton to do it. Bill Clinton gave the cover to the other corporate Democrats to go along with it. So that was the beginning of the end for the working class in America. In fact, now, I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton, and that's why a lot of people on the left came after me, and they still do.
Well, it was confusing to me that you were saying, hey, if you want to vote for a real progressive, what about Jill Stein?
Yeah, if you vote for a party, here's a program you actually agree with, the Green New Deal.
Right.
So, and we
but
don't...
everybody's like, no, you're throwing away your vote. Like, how are you throwing away your vote?
So we all know for a fact, because of the WikiLeaks emails, that Hillary Clinton had a thing called the Pied Piper strategy, which was she told her minions in the press, please prop up Donald Trump. Prop him up. Why did she want Donald Trump to be propped up? Because she wanted to run against Donald Trump, because she knew that she was so repulsive to most of the country, she needed someone who was more repulsive than her. Turns out that was a bad calculation.
It was a terrible calculation.
So that's called the Pied Piper strategy. And everybody, that's why you turn on Chris Hayes and he would show Donald Trump's empty podium for an hour instead of a Bernie Sanders. And then he wags his finger at people with no money and no power for not voting for a corporatist warmonger like Hillary Clinton, who just, why do you think the people in Michigan wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton? Maybe because she put half of them in fucking prison? Because she passed NAFTA and Barack Obama was trying to sell TPP at the top of his lungs at the same time she was trying to get working people to vote for her? They knew what the fuck was going on. And that's why half the country doesn't vote. But you're going to wag your finger at the people who actually do vote, who come out and vote their conscience, and they don't fucking prop up evil. You know what the voting for lesser of two evil gets you? Donald fucking Trump.
Well, there's also a really sneaky thing that happens where you have two parties, and one of them you think of as this conservative warmongering party, which automatically makes the other party the enemy of that.
Yeah, but they're not.
They're not. Well,
we have two pro-war parties, and that's there's not an opposition party. They oppose Trump on the most ridiculous bullshit. They just voted for an extra $160 billion to go to the war machine. $160 billion. Let's remember, Bernie Sanders wanted to pay for free college, which was somewhere around $65 billion. So, and everybody said, he's fucking crazy. How are you going to pay for that? They just did that in a blink of an eye. They passed $160 billion to a war machine that we don't have an enemy to fight. You know, Russia spends $65 billion a year on their military. They're a paper tiger. We got no fucking enemies out there. We have to keep inventing them. And the last enemy they invented was ISIS. ISIS, I don't know, we're supposed to shit our pants over them, Joe, because they have kitchen knives. They'll cut your head off with a kitchen knife. That's what I'm supposed to be afraid of? What the fuck? What? It's amazing how they can keep us scared so they can keep perpetual war going. This is an Orwellian nightmare. And the Democrats right now should be screaming about the Pentagon budget, but they're not screaming about it because they're complicit. They're in it. And that's what's wrong with this country. That's why we can't have nice things. So when they tell you that we're broke and we can't afford stuff, they don't mean we can't afford trillion-dollar wars, trillion-dollar bank bailout, billion-dollar oil subsidies, and prison construction. That's not what they mean. They mean we can't afford shit like healthcare or education or roads or bridges or firemen or libraries or anything that makes your fucking life better. Because whenever they need bombs, they got it. Hey, we're broke for Social Security. We're broke for Medicare. How about for bombs? Oh, we got bomb money. We keep it right to our fucking
that is
drinking
true
money.
Because we're not really in a war in the sense of like World War II or World War I. We're in this weird war of, it's like a calculated war.
They're all economic wars,
Yeah.
Joe. They're all. So we went into Iraq for the oil. Libya is because he wanted to go off the petrodollar.
But it is stunning how much funding this kind of war gets versus all the different social programs that we need in this country.
Yes.
Infrastructure programs.
Yes, and people always think like, well, how are you going to pay for that? We don't have to spend any more money. We can actually spend less money. We don't have to spend $750 billion a year on a military that's bloated. We have 1,000 bases around the world. We don't even know how many bases there are because lots of them are secret.
So what do you say to the argument that we need them in order to stay safe?
It's not true.
That's the big argument, right? The big argument is this is the way we've destroyed ISIS because ISIS was on their way to building up and
We
becoming
invented
a real
ISIS.
threat.
We invented Al-Qaeda, and then we invented ISIS.
We certainly aided in their
development. And
yeah.
we directly funded them.
Well, people that don't
funded
know, the whole Mujahideen story, which was Osama bin Laden was our guy.
That's our guy.
He was our guy
He was
fighting
an
against the Soviets.
anti-Russian freedom fighter
Yeah.
is what they called Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they didn't need him anymore. So and we're still in Afghanistan 17 years later. 3 more years that war gets a gold watch. And
what do they do? I mean, what do they do to get us out of there? I mean, literally, what is the exit strategy?
There is
none.
There is no exit strategy. There never was an exit strategy. There's no exit strategy from the Mideast. In fact, they just announced we're going to be permanently in Syria. So, and by the way, the Syrian war is complete bullshit. Those gas attacks now have been completely debunked. I didn't believe them the first time.
So what happened during those gas attacks?
So that's called a false flag. So
right.
what happens is they wanted the United States to come in on their side to bomb Assad, to overthrow him.
Right.
And so what they would do is they would do a gas attack on their own people and then blame it on Assad. And then
this has been proven?
Yes.
That they did it?
Yes. And then
Jesus Christ.
And the first time was in, I think, 2013, and Barack Obama wanted to bomb. And I knew it was bullshit then.
Do you remember when everybody freaked out about that?
Yes, and then he didn't bomb them.
Yeah.
Remember, he didn't get to bomb them because
everybody was like, "Fuck you."
Yes, he goes, "Let's put it to a vote in the Congress." And the people don't want war, Joe.
No.
So the people said, "Fuck you," and he was like, We're going to do it anyway." Guess what? They did it anyway. They bombed. They dropped so many bombs on Syria, they ran out of bombs. That's a fact, right? So the Air Force was out of bombs.
Which year was this they did this?
So was it 2015 that they dropped so many bombs in the Mideast they ran out of bombs? That's just a fucking fact. Look it up.
Well, if you buy all these bombs, you have
gotta
to
use
them. I mean, what are you going to do with them? They're just going to sit around, and what if somebody accidentally sets one off while they're on American soil? We don't want that.
We can't have that happen.
Can't have that.
So, and here's the weird thing that the left is doing right now. They're attacking Donald Trump from the right. And what do I mean by that? So when they want, so they say Donald Trump is a Putin puppet, and the only way you can prove you're not a Putin puppet is you got to bomb somebody. You got to bomb Syria. Remember that? They were like, "Oh, he's president today because he bombed Syria." Remember that? Fucking Brian Williams almost nutted in his pants.
Well, all he bombed was airstrips.
So that's what they're saying.
Right.
So they go, oh, they bombed airstrips. Oh, you bombed the old planes and not the new planes. So what that is, you're attacking Donald Trump from the right. Because left people are supposed to be for détente, and you're supposed to be anti-war and anti-empire, right? So when you attack Donald Trump, you're going, you didn't really bomb them. You're attacking them from the right. You're saying he should be more militaristic, which is fucked up.
Well, it supports the argument that everything is circular, right? That as far right as you get, as far left as you get, you really come to some sort of strange ideological point, like 0 point.
That can be true, but not in this instance. Because what's happening there is corporate right-wing Democrats are attacking Trump for not being right enough. What you're talking about is where I'm at, where I'm anti-war, and then there's also anti-war and anti-interventionist people on the right. So a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because of that, because he always said he was an anti-interventionist. He was going to get us out of the Middle East. It was crazy to be there and bring our boys home and all. And that's why a lot of people did vote for Trump because of that.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people said they felt more comfortable voting for Trump because Hillary actually promised more war in Syria than he did, and that's turning out to be true because she wanted a no-fly zone, which means we're going to shoot down a Russian jet. Are you fucking crazy?
Right.
So I'm on the left anti-war. There's no anti-war movement in the country that's represented by a political party right now.
Do you think that this right, though, the way the left is attacking Donald Trump from the right, as you say it, don't you think it's just because they see an opening there to criticize and to point out his vulnerabilities?
What they're doing, this whole Russian narrative, is the establishment not wanting to examine the system that gave us Donald Trump. And so they want to distract you with Russia until we get to the next election.
Yes.
And it's working.
Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. Distract you from a system that's archaic and outdated and it doesn't work.
Why do people vote?
Completely
They're not asking the question anymore. Why do people vote for Donald Trump? In fact, the only time they asked it, they took the shittiest answer was because of racism.
Right.
Really, the same country that voted for Barack Obama twice.
Well, somebody just doubled down on that the other day.
That's just so
someone was saying,
are there racists?
Ginsburg.
Are there racists who voted for Donald Trump? Yes.
Of course.
So what, it's...
Alonzo Bowden said it best.
What?
He said, not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists are Trump supporters. Fucking Alonzo. That's a great line.
And I went to a Trump rally, and it was disgusting and scary, and it was all xenophobia, and it was all race. It was worse than I thought it was going to be.
Well, he tapped into that. But what's interesting about him tapping into that is this is not something that he had been chiming on about for years. He was a Democrat for the longest time.
He's not an ideologue, which is, I heard when he got into office, he was like, why don't we just give everybody Medicare? Which is, of course, the answer.
Right.
You just give everybody Medicare.
Well,
because it saves us money.
Instead of food stamps, is give them food. He's like, we have this issue with people when they buy cigarettes and booze and stuff with food stamps. Let's just give them food. It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean, if it's healthy, good food, I mean, have places where people can go and pick up healthy, good food. That might be a very good idea.
You know, we need an infrastructure plan in the United States.
Yes.
And, you know, FDR did that, right? He gave old people retirement. He gave young people a job. He gave people dignity. He gave them a job. And he said, if you're willing to work, you'll have a job. Remember that the old saying when I grew up was there going to be a chicken in every pot and a car in every garage or something like that?
Something like that.
And they don't say that shit anymore, right? Because the government is not there to help you anymore.
But the government does pretend that they are. I mean,
yes,
one of the things that Trump is going on about is how much how many more people are working today than before. African-American unemployment is at the lowest point in 40 years. The economy's booming, all these different things.
The economy, when they say the economy's booming, they mean Wall Street is booming.
Right.
But there's no
market.
correlation between Wall Street and regular people's lives.
There's not?
Well, the stock market has been booming. I remember I got called into CNN to do a thing when the stock market crossed 13,000. Now it's up 25,000. And that was a big watershed moment. That was just like 8 years ago I got called in to do that at CNN. That was like, oh my God. So we've doubled the stock market. People's paychecks haven't doubled. People's lives gotten worse, actually.
But I have a problem with saying that because there's just too many people you're dealing with. When you say people's lives have gotten worse, like how many? What people?
Well, I'll tell
there's
you,
too many people.
So 63% of the country can't afford a $1,000 emergency. Half the country right now is either poor or low income. 50% of all wage earners earn less than $30,000 a year in the richest country in the world. Jack Ma, who is the Jeff Bezos of Asia, he runs the Amazon of Asia, and he said, you know, the problem with the United States isn't making money; it's that you guys don't distribute it right.
Ooh, well, that's some communist shit coming over from China. You're going to let that slide by, Jimmy Dore? But
well, it's called those communist billionaires are buying up all our real estate. How the fuck did a socialist country produce all those billionaires?
Well, as soon as they got into communism, or into capitalism rather, they did it in a very ruthless way. I mean, you look at it's really kind of fucked up, like what's going on with some of the places where we buy our goods, like Foxconn, where they make iPhones.
Yeah.
They have nets around the building to keep people from fucking jumping off. But when Trump has been in office for only a year, he can't expect all those things to change. But his argument has been that those things are improving. You think it's all horseshit?
Yes. In
so
fact,
why is African American unemployment at the lowest rate that it's been in 40 years? Is that because it's unreported? Like, meaning when people stop looking for jobs, they report they stop counting those as being unemployed.
So there's that.
Yeah.
And
they stop taking unemployment and they stop looking for jobs.
So they don't count them.
Right. They don't count them, but they're still unemployed. It's a real sneaky statistic.
Yes. Also,
I would really like it if someone was honest about that.
I would like it too. Like, what's the real unemployment rate?
Right.
That's what we want to know. What's the real unemployment rate?
How would we find that out, though?
I don't know. Maybe I know there's a guy named Mark Blythe. He would probably know what it is. He's an economist. He coined the term global Trumpism, and he has a great line. He tells the elites about how they're running the economy. Of course, I'm going to butcher it, but he says, the Hamptons aren't a defensible position. It's a low-lying area. He's got a Scottish accent. The Hamptons are a low-lying area.
That's a very bad area to be.
Not a defensible position, meaning when the fucking people come for you, you're dead.
It's not like there's a military base in the Hamptons.
Right. You're not up on a hill.
Fishing,
people can get to you. So
a lot of gold diggers.
So the jobs suck. Everybody's job sucks, and we hollowed out the unions. NAFTA was the crushing blow to the unions in this country, and we need unions is one of the things that actually cushions the blow of the brutalities of a free market, right? So you have unions, you have social programs, because capitalism fucks everybody, and so you have to have all these things in place to kind of cushion the blow of it. And we got rid of them, right? Bill Clinton gutted welfare at the same time he did NAFTA. I mean, and then he exploded the prison population. I mean,
but people that I know that were in unions, particularly some friends that I have that were in the auto union, were saying that it was getting completely bloated. They were having two people doing a job that was only for one person, and there was all this real wanton, purposeful waste, and this was all designed into certain contracts. This is a buddy of mine that was an auto worker in Detroit. He said, we had shifts where there was supposed to be 2 people on the job, but everybody knew it was a real simple thing. You work a machine. So I would work 4 hours and he would work 4 hours, or I would work a day and he would work a day, but we both punched in. And that was it was just common. And there was several of those. And he goes, and you were getting $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year for some jobs. It's just ridiculous amounts of money for jobs that really didn't warrant that kind of income. And he said this was all negotiated into the contract. It's like, it's a good thing to give fair wages and healthy wages and health insurance and all these different things, he said, but it was unquestionably bloated, which opened the door to all these factories going to Mexico and all these other places.
Well, what opened the door for those factories going? Why? I would say 2 things to that. First of all, it's kind of anti-logical to think that the union would say, no, we're not going to negotiate on this and go ahead and take our jobs, both of those jobs, to Mexico. So
I don't think they had a chance.
Right. Number 2 is, if you look at the strongest economies, right, you look at Germany, they have strong unions. Japan, they have strong unions. And by the way, the unions sit on their boards.
Well, it was a real problem in the 1980s. And I guess a little bit in the late 70s when the oil crisis happened. America was making dog shit cars. They were just making terrible cars.
Right.
And then Japanese were making these cars that were goddamn bulletproof.
Right.
Like you'd buy a Toyota Corolla and that fucking thing would go 400,000, 500,000 miles without a single problem. You know, you buy an Oldsmobile and that thing would shit the bed inside of a month and a half and you'd be fucking furious. And everybody was like, buy American, buy American. And a lot of people were like, well, fuck you, man. You're making shitty cars. These goddamn... I bought a Dodge Daytona. I had it for maybe 3 months and the handle fell off in my hand. I went to open the door and it came off in my hand. I was like, motherfucker. And that was like, I think one of the first the first car I ever bought.
I was a road comic. I'm like, I have to buy a Honda. I'm a road comic.
Yeah.
I can't. This has been early 90s. I'm like, I have to buy a car that I can rely on in the winter.
The same thing. I had an Accord.
Yeah, I had a Civic.
They're the best.
Yeah,
they never break.
They never broke. So I would look at that. Unions, it's not the problem. The unions aren't the problem. In fact, unions are an answer to the problem. And if you look at the economies everyone wants to be like, look at Germany. And by the way, the German unions just won the right for to work 28 hours a week, and they got a 4% pay raise.
I would say that's 8 hours too much.
I would agree with you.
I really think I was talking about this yesterday with Johan Hari, who wrote a book on depression, and one of the major causes being the way people live their lives without control, doing things they don't want to do. And he was saying that somewhere in the neighborhood of 87% of the people are doing things they don't want to be doing most of the time for a job. And I was making the argument that we've set up this structure that's just completely ridiculous, and we've stuck with it because it's just the way we've always done things. This 40-hour work week plus overtime, it's chaos. You're losing your life.
And by the way, we'd be working more if it wasn't for unions. We have a weekend because of unions, right?
Which goes back to the Foxconn thing. They don't have unions, and they have fucking nets around their building and dormitories where they work.
So that's what people say about Amazon too. And my whole thing is like, people's like, why do you still, you can't use Amazon? You can't. I'm like, it's so hard to live off the grid. You know what I mean? It's like, I drive a car, so I'm going to have to buy gas from Exxon or Shell. All right, so does that make me a bad lefty because I'm supporting an oil company?
You're supposed to get a Prius, bro.
I mean, you still put gas in a Prius.
Oh, that's right. You got to get a Tesla. But then you're rich.
Then you're rich.
Shit.
Yeah, you're a fucking...
Well, the Tesla 3 is a cheaper one, right? It's like $50,000.
But if you get the shit you want on it, it's still going to cost more.
Right.
You want AC.
Bitches.
You want an electric window.
Right. What you got to do is you got to get an old car, like an old Civic, and then rebuild it.
Yeah. Well, I lease now. I don't buy cars. That's a scam, I think, buying cars. But anyway,
it is for the most part, but not if you buy classic cars.
Well, oh no, that's different. Definitely. If you're Jay Leno, that's good. And
you have to stick your chin out when you do that.
Boy, his new show is fantastic.
It's really good.
That car show is that's the show I wish he would have been doing all along.
I've said the exact same thing.
Are you kidding me?
Yes,
I couldn't believe how much I liked it.
I like him.
I like him on that show.
Well, you know why? It's because he's passionate.
I like him.
It's like that's who he really is.
You know, when you would watch him interview someone, you could tell he didn't give a fuck about the question he was asking.
Do you remember the Bill Hicks bit?
Yeah.
Bill Hicks bit about him interviewing.
Hey, Joey. Hey, Joey Lawrence.
That's right.
You got a car now. You driving? You driving?
You got a girlfriend?
You got a girlfriend? Yeah. No. Yeah.
And then Bill Hicks would have Jay Leno reach into his drawer and pull out an Uzi and stick it in his mouth. I used to be a fucking real comic. And he blows his brains out, and it forms an NBC peacock on the wall.
On the wall behind him.
Because he's a company man to the bitter end. And
That was the bit.
he had him reloading.
Oh my God, what has it become? Well, that's the weirdest thing, you know. Jay Leno was one of my inspirations to become a comedian.
Back in the early day.
Yeah, and I would tell people
Yeah,
that, and they were like, "Huh?" Because they only knew him from the Tonight Show, and I'm like, I don't know what he's doing on that show, but he's the funniest guy in the world.
It would be like if Dave Chappelle, before he did Chappelle's Show, decided to host a talk show and then completely stopped anything controversial and completely stopped having an opinion on anything.
If you look at that, when Jay Leno used to go on David Letterman,
He was the guy.
It
He was the guy. He was edgy and
super
dangerous.
edgy.
Yeah.
Super edgy.
Yeah.
He made fun of corporate America like nobody's business.
He was a sharp comic.
I'm the best comic.
Yeah.
And so that's why it was funny when he got the Tonight Show. I just didn't think he showed off his talents.
No, but for him, that was making it. He made it.
That was in his head.
In his head.
That's
Yeah.
it. This is what I'm supposed to...
In our heads, we were like, what?
Yes.
Did you miss everything? Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what? I was on the Tonight Show. And
okay.
a couple times. One time I was on, and during the break, I sat there with Jay, and I said, I think it was the first time I was on, I said, hey, man. I go, what was up with that Bill Hicks bit? I go, what was that about? Yeah. I had to ask. Because I was like, what are the odds I want to be on the show again? I'm like, I'm on once. I think it was the Fear Factor days, which is like, in the early Fear Factor days, I was 100% convinced that show was canceled at any second now. So I'm like,
really?
This is my one chance to get on the Jay Leno show. Let me ask him some questions. So he's like, John, you like doing that show? And I go, yeah, it's not bad. I go, hey, man, let me ask you this. I go, what was up with that Bill Hicks thing, right? And his take on it was, well, I wanted to do jokes for everybody. I wanted to do comedy for everybody, and Bill just didn't believe in doing comedy for everybody. I thought it was interesting. I don't think he expected me to ask it to him. I had him on the podcast, and he was fucking fantastic. Because after he'd retired, he told some stories about doing stand-up for mob people, and about this guy fucking screaming at a priest, you fucking motherfucker, put the fucking... And it was a hilarious thing to watch Jay Leno telling hilarious stories and swearing like a fucking longshoreman. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. You're a regular guy. Like, you've always been a regular guy. You were just doing the Tonight Show thing.
And I heard stories about Jay that he loved to watch hacky comedy. And the reason why this stuck in my head was because I used to do that too with Todd Glass. We would if the worse the comedian, the better. We have 3 specials lined up for a night. We were like, fuck, this is going to be great. And we found out that Jay Leno used to do the same thing. When he would see a comic that he didn't think, he thought was horrible, he would hunt down a tape of it, and then everyone would have to come over to his house and they'd watch it. This is a story I heard, so maybe this is. But
I'm sure it's true.
And I'm like, holy fuck, that's what we do.
Well, he just turned everything mild. He turned everything mild for many, many years.
It just wasn't who he was or what made me like him, and then it confused me, and I felt personally let down by him. I felt like he let down comedy. Because now he was supposed to show the old people what the new people were doing in comedy, and then he just kind of didn't.
But now you see him, and he's like a very likable person. He's fun. Like, his show is fun.
That show, look, it's because exactly he's talking about shit he cares about.
Yeah.
That show was not made for him, the Tonight Show. Even though he was the #1 show, so what do we know, right? It was still the #1 show, so maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it was a different thing, because like Letterman seemed passionate. Like, he seemed to be enjoying it. And when he would say like witty things and sharp things to people, you could tell he was getting like a little bit of a thrill out of it. There was some excitement to Letterman's position that you didn't sense with Jay Leno. Jay Leno was just like, well, making everybody happy.
So the thing I liked about late night shows when I was younger was that there was a sense of danger, that anything could happen. You didn't know what was going to happen, right?
Right.
Burt Reynolds is going to come out drunk. You know what I mean? Shit like that.
Yeah.
And they used to smoke.
Yeah.
And they would talk about things. They were talk show. They would actually talk about things. Right. And watch Dick Cavett, and I remember he had Mort Saul come out with Jane Fonda and Peter Fonda right after the Easy Rider came out, and they're all talking. You're like, this is a fucking and that's counterculture, and it's right on. And so it was really good. That's when shows were good. But now shows are
dead.
Now they're all fluff. It's all fucking bubblegum
all that
bullshit.
stuff is there was an outlet for that though, and it was filled by comedy in podcasts.
Yeah, so now podcasts are doing that, and those late night shows. I have no idea what they're doing or why they even exist.
They're weird.
Even Stephen Colbert, like Stephen Colbert's show on Comedy Central, just a brilliant show. And now he quit to get way more money to do a more popular show that is way less relevant, interesting, or creative.
But it is funny when he fucking mocks Trump. It's funny how hard he goes. The fact that he said that Trump's mouth. But did he uses his mouth as Putin's cock holster? The fact that they said that on CBS, I was like, wow, this is what happens when you have to compete with the internet. Who the fuck could have imagined ever
that
in
lefty
your wildest
comedians
dream
would be doing McCarthy smears?
But who'd
have fucking thought, huh? Right on national TV.
But a joke like that. I get the McCarthyism thing, but the joke of a cock holster, the president's mouth being used as Putin's cock holster, that would be on CBS.
I get that you're applauding that he broke a boundary.
Well, I'm not applauding it. I'm just saying it's fascinating that we've changed what's the bar.
Yeah.
What you're allowed to do. Like you've changed and because it's Trump. Like if they said that about Hillary
Anybody
Clinton,
else get it? Oh my God!
If he said, well, because look at all this Russia dossier memo shit that's coming out. I mean, it turns out that a lot of this stuff is horse shit.
So a lot of people who weren't around for the first McCarthy shit, they're getting to experience it now. This is what it's like.
Yeah.
This is what it's like. And you're like, what? Even the media's and the media goes along. Yeah, this is what it's like. And you know. I don't want to spend any amount of time talking about it, but it's so unbelievable because they forgot. You're talking to a wall when you tell people just go, well, you mean there was collusion? I go, what's collusion? What does that mean, collusion? That Trump colluded with the Russians, hacked into the John Podesta's emails, and somehow they needed Trump to help them? What the fuck?
Right.
Because that's what they're saying.
Exactly.
And that there's some kind of quid pro quo, and that now Trump is a Manchurian candidate, and that he's Putin's puppet, and but you notice they're moving the goalposts every day. So now it's now he's in bed with Russian oligarchs doing money laundering.
Well, you don't know. There's a sale of a home, and it was a Russian bought it. Russian.
So they've totally moved the goalpost from being treason to now he's just regular corrupt like everybody else. Because let me tell you something, everybody else is regular corrupt like Trump.
But I don't even know if it's regular corrupt because we're talking about a sale of a house from quite a few years ago.
Well, there's more. That's one thing, but they're talking about lots of other things, right? And I say, you want to talk about collusion? He opened up 8 businesses in Saudi Arabia during the goddamn campaign. There's your fucking collusion. But nobody talks about that because Saudi Arabia is supposed to be on our side, even though they're a repressive theocracy that beheads people in the streets. But we like them because of the petrodollar, which no one ever talks about the petrodollar.
It's dirty.
Well, that's what props up our dollar right now, the economy. So what people don't know is that in the early 70s, Richard Nixon took our country off the gold standard, and we went on the petrodollar. And what was that? Well, we promised Saudi Arabia the use of our military anywhere they wanted, as long as they would convert every dollar of oil that someone bought for them in American dollars. So if you want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you first have to convert your currency into American dollars.
Which is the real reason why we invaded Iraq the first time.
Well, it has a lot to do with it. And it's why we're in Yemen right now. We're doing siege warfare in Yemen, which is a war crime. That guy just got convicted of it at The Hague. So we're doing that in conjunction with Saudi Arabia. And why are we doing that? Because of the petrodollar. That's what's and it's all about why are we in Africa? It's everything comes down to money. And why are we in Syria? They wanted to put a natural gas pipeline through Syria, and Russia doesn't want because they want to sell the natural gas to Europe. That's what this is about. So if it's not about babies, it's not about freedom, it's not about liberty, and we got to.
You clearly don't like country music.
I like real country music.
What is real country music?
I like country like the outlaw comedian.
Merle Haggard?
Yeah, I like that guy. I like
Waylon Jennings?
Yeah, I like Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Not these fucking pussies who want to be Boy Scouts and My Mama and all that shit.
Whoa.
What?
Pussies.
I'm not supposed to say pussies?
No, it's okay. Well, it's going to be a time where we can't say pussies
Shit,
anymore.
piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
George
all right?
Carlin.
So a lot of people are trying to use #MeToo for puritanical reasons, and that's not what it's about. #MeToo is about fucking stopping men who use their power and station in life to hold it over women for sexual purposes. That's what that's about. It's not about being a Puritan. It's not about being anti-porn. It's nothing wrong with lusting after a woman's tits and a woman's ass. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with a woman wanting to be fucked by a man. Those are normal things. That's okay, and don't let people hijack that movement and try to use it for Puritanism, because it's what a lot of people are doing. Shit, piss, fuck, on cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
I'm triggered. I hope you're triggered too. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think that what we're dealing with is an exposure of sexual assault, exposure of sexual harassment, sexual assault, particularly in the workplace. You know, and this is a giant issue for people that have to work alongside men and women, and they develop these little communities inside these little boxes that we call offices, and things get really fucking weird. And if you have a boss that's a piece of shit, and he's constantly harassing the women that work there, and it becomes a living hell with them, they're stressed, they're going through, I mean, it is a crime. You're doing something to those people that work there. You're putting this pressure on them. You're fucking up their life.
Could you imagine the last thing I would ever want to do was impose myself sexually on a woman who didn't want it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're a healthy person.
Like, I mean,
for some people, it's just about
we've all been
getting to the end goal. Right?
We've all been drunk, right? We've all been on a date where a woman didn't want to have sex, and we did, and we pushed the issue. But, you know, I just can't imagine. Like, I don't get that. She doesn't like you. Oh, I'm going to make her go feel uncomfortable? Like, what the fuck do you get out of that? That's just weird.
Well, there's people that hate the opposite sex. I mean, and I say the opposite sex, I don't mean just men who hate women. There's women who hate men. There's people who have associated the opposite sex with rejection and pain and frustration all of their life. You look at a guy like Harvey Weinstein, that is an ugly, fat guy. Right? There's no women who are lusting after him. It was his power and his money that got him into a position where he could get some pussy. And then having power over all these actresses, and then hearing whether it's Uma Thurman or whatever, you know, famous actress, Salma Hayek, all these superstars who are fighting this guy off in hotel rooms. I mean, it's fucking crazy. I mean, he's a maniac, but he's a disgusting guy who has no shot at getting someone to appreciate him physically. They might like his personality, but for someone to be physically attracted to him is almost impossible. Right? I mean, he's eaten himself into this disgusting shape.
Unless you have a fetish or whatever.
Yeah, you might be just into getting fucked by Jabba the Hutt, just big fat guy with pockmarked skin shooting loads all over you. There's no way it makes any sense.
But if he was going to put you in Ocean's 11.
You got to do what you got to do. Well, you know, Matt Damon said, what did Matt Damon say that they were trying to get him out of that new Ocean's movie?
Well, didn't he say something about it's a continuum or something, that everything is Harvey Weinstein? Wasn't that it?
I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, we have to make a differentiation between sexual assault and men hitting on women. What's really interesting is seeing how they're acting about this in France and in Europe. A lot of women, especially older actors,
did you see that?
Off. Yeah.
Yes. Did you see? That's wild.
They want men to be men. And in France, I mean, they're just they're just different over there. They have a different attitude. The same as Brazil. My friend Tiago from Brazil told me once, he's like, man, he goes, if you're in Brazil, and he goes, if you're with a girl, you don't try to fuck her. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're not even trying to fuck me? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? They'll get mad at you. Like they appreciate, like, in Brazil is a very aggressive, sexually aggressive place.
I have had, I'll never forget, I was working a comedy club, and there was a girl there who was beautiful, and she flirted with me, and well, I didn't know if she was flirting with me because she was just beautiful, and she talked to me, so I'm like, oh, right. And so, but I wasn't going to make a move at her because I'm considering every comedian who comes in this club makes a move on this girl because she's the prettiest girl around, right? So I didn't do anything because I don't want to be that guy,
right?
And then I'll never forget, by the end of the week, it was the last night, and she's like, hey, there's a party at my house tonight. Are you going to come? And I was like, oh, sure, right? So I went to there, whatever. Cut to, I'm leaving. And she goes, are you fucking kidding me? And I go, what? She goes, I threw a party just to get you to my apartment and you're going to leave? And I was like, oh, really? You want to? And so we had sex.
Damn, she had to beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, so that's so
Right.
there. So there was a woman who was.
But you didn't want to be the guy that was super aggressive against a girl that was like, "Hey, I just like you.
Yeah.
You're just a fun guy to hang out with. Does everything have to be sex?"
And I know every guy in the world hit on her.
You know what? I mean, I don't want to say this because it's almost like in this day and age, you got to get to know someone forever before you fuck them. I mean, literally forever. You got.
I tried to fuck my wife the first night we went out.
Good for you.
And she wouldn't, which has probably worked out because we're still together. And but I did it in a charming way, right?
Right.
I would say, honey,
Let me ask you this: why did you try to fuck her on the first night, but it took you 5 nights for the waitress?
because I didn't want to be that guy at the club.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Because it's a work environment.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you're the opposite of a sexual harasser.
I guess so. I guess now that I look at it that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
the
that
opposite.
I did.
You're sensitive. Not that you weren't attracted to her. You just didn't want to be a dick.
Yeah, I didn't want to
for
have
you.
that reputation of that guy. And plus,
Yeah.
there's plenty of women in the audience. There's plenty of women.
Right.
So what I would tell her, I remember the first night we were together, I was like, hey, I know you're going to say you want me to go home, but you're going to worry that I'm too tired to drive and that I might get in an accident. So you don't have to say that. I'll just stay.
That's hilarious.
And she's like, no, it's okay. I go, it's nice of you to say that. You're strong. You're brave. But I know you're going to worry, so I'm just staying.
That's hilarious.
I think I did end up staying, but we didn't have sex.
Right.
And like probably two more times like that.
But also, you don't really know someone's personality for a long time. I mean, that's part of the problem. But the problem is people have physical needs and they get attracted to each other. And then next thing you know, look, there's been many times in my life where I wound up having sex with somebody who turned out to be crazy. And then, you're 1-2 dates in, you're like, yeah, she seems cool. And next thing you know, you're hanging out and a week or two later and she does something completely fucking insane. And then the crazy just starts leaking out of her pores. And you're like, oh, well, now what have I done? I've entangled myself with some person who knows where I live and expects me to call them every day, and we're going to get together, and I have to figure out a way to back out of this. And then you try to back out of it, and they get fucking angry at you. This is back in the old days when people would actually call you up angry, too.
Yeah.
There was no text messaging back then.
You just pick up the phone if someone starts yelling at you.
Yeah, or I would just duck them for a while until they found some new guy.
Remember when people used to answer their phone?
Yeah,
Remember those days?
I don't ever answer my phone.
No one ever answers their phone
Well,
now.
I get too many phone calls from people I don't know. I just get phone calls from numbers I don't know. I'm like, where's this guy get my fucking number from? I have no idea. I just look at it. I'm like, eh.
Did you ever have? I answered a call because you're like, oh, maybe it's that business I just called or calling. You don't know, right?
Right.
So I took one time, and it was just a number. It didn't come up, and it was someone asking me for money to borrow them money.
Was this a person you know?
I knew tangentially in comedy, and
Whoa.
and I didn't say this, and I was like, do you know that your name is not even in my fucking phone book?
And you're asking for
You're
money.
asking me for money.
That's a desperate move. That must be a person who's like a gambling addict or something.
That's what I thought right away.
Yeah.
But getting back to this, the thing about the women, one time I had a woman, when I first moved to LA, I was dating her, and I went to her house, and she was really creative, and she was cute, and she wrote songs, and she would sing them for me. I love that shit.
Right.
And I remember we were going to go have sex, and she went and she goes, hang on, and she went and took a drink.
Whoa.
And I go, what? She goes, do you want a drink? I go, no. And she goes, hold on. And she's like, drinking. And I go, what are you doing? She goes, I have to have a couple drinks before. And then it made me not want to have sex with her. Isn't that fucked up?
Wow.
I was like, wow, you have to drink so you can feel comfortable. I took it personal, which of course it was just her. She needed to relax.
Yeah.
Because she had fucked up. She had issues or whatever.
Right.
And so that was it. I'm like, I can't be with a girl who has to drink to have sex.
Well, isn't it a thing too, though? Especially when you're young and single, it's like you don't want to get stuck in a bad situation. Like I'd seen a lot of bad situations when I was young. My own parents and other people's parents. So I'd see anything fucking sketcy and be like, yeah, I know where this is going. I don't want to deal with your problems. I don't have those kind of problems. So see ya.
Yeah, I was the
Yeah.
same way. I had a lot of bad examples of people.
Yeah.
I have no idea why these people would be with the spouse they're with. Like, why would you do that? Like, well, maybe
Right.
that's going to happen to me because it's unconscious. So I started reading self-help books and watching John Bradshaw videos. I don't know if you knew who that is.
Who's John Bradshaw?
He invented that term inner child and all
those
that inner child work
motherfuckers.
and all that stuff. So
That guy fucked up a lot of people's heads. I'm getting to know my inner child. Bitch, you're 40.
But it was helpful to me because he broke up the family dynamic, and he talked about how people act in I come from a big family, 12 kids, and that, how it's like it all balances out. You'll have a bad kid and an angel,
right?
And all that and everything in between. And he talked about, and so it helped me understand myself a lot, right? And so I wanted to understand my motivations, so I didn't make bad choices in my life like I had seen people around me making,
right?
And because it's unconscious, right? So you just do what's habit. You don't even know why you're doing what you're doing half the time. You're not conscious of why you're acting the way you're acting or why you like what you like. You just go, I like that. Why?
Well, when I was struggling as a comic, one thing that I definitely did is I only gave a certain amount of room to relationships because I knew that I really had to concentrate on my career.
Yes.
I'm like, if I don't, it will fall apart. Like, there was a kid that I started out with. We both started out together, and he was a pretty funny guy. And he got this girlfriend that was just very demanding, and he stopped doing stand-up less and less. He was doing less and less sets, and then eventually he dropped out. And then I ran into his son many years later, and his son, they wound up having a baby, and his son was saying that his dad just really regretted not getting into comedy. I'm sure he's happy he has a nice son and all that stuff, and he had a family, but it tanked him.
There's a saying, I think it might have been Carl Jung, who said, nothing affects a child more than the unlived life of its parent.
Oof.
So imagine being a father and you went after your dream and you gave it everything you can. Now you can impart that to your kid, and your kid just absorbs it being around you.
Of course.
Now you didn't do that. You have all that on your resentment or whatever you feel because you didn't live what your life you were supposed to, and then you can't pass that off, and your kid absorbs that too.
Well, I knew it was so hard to do anyway. It was going to be so hard to make it, and the odds are stacked against you. You're seeing everybody else drop off like flies. You see guys can't get gigs. They wind up quitting. They get a day job. They work less and less, and the next thing you know, they just completely stop doing stand-up. It's so common. And so when I have relationships and I'd see those signs where girls are just demanding more and more of my time. Why do you have to go up tonight? I'm like, I have to go up 4 or 5 nights a week. I have to.
You're kidding.
Yeah. I'm like, you can come with me. I've seen your act 100 times. Well, this is what I do. This is what I do. I don't know what to tell you.
I meet guys who their spouses, their significant others aren't into their comedy, and I'm like, how
awful.
the fuck?
It's awful.
That's awful. That's the thing that's up. What do you like about me?
My wife is, I would say she's a fan of comedy, but she's been around me for a long time, and she's hard. Like, if she watches stand up and it's not good, she's like, this sucks.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
She's got an eye for it. She understands it. But I have friends whose wives hate comedy, and they do stand-up. And that's crazy.
It's crazy.
And they associate comedy with, like, taking their boyfriend away or taking their husband away. Like, this is that thing that takes away my time, from me with him. Now he's off doing these joke things, fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
People get super selfish.
You need a better woman, someone who's deeper.
Yeah, well, people fucking settle. They just settle. They settle.
Yes, Anyway, there's so many that have to. I forget we're on a show sometimes, and I almost say shit that I'm like, I know. He'll probably hear this. So when I started comedy, I was dating this girl, sweet girl. And she wanted to get married, like you would expect, right? So I was 24 at the time. I was 6 years to get out of college, and so she bought me a suit so I could go on interviews to get a job. She wanted me to get a job. She bought me a suit, and I had started doing comedy right then. And so about 6 months into doing comedy, I started getting Saturday night spots at a real club. They would let me come up, do 10 minutes, not paid, but I could do it on the regular show, guest set.
That's huge at the time, right? That's everything.
My God. Are you kidding me?
That's a godsend.
So we go out.
Clouds part.
Yes. So on a Saturday night, I take her with me. We're going to it was called the Comedy Cottage. And I do my set. And there was lots of other, like, new comics like me. And they were like, oh, wow, Jimmy, that was great. It was a big deal. It was a big deal for us. Like, one of our own got on, and in the car ride home, she's not saying anything. And finally, she just turns to me and she goes, you're really going to do this, aren't you? And I go, fuck yes. Did you just see what happened? Of course I'm doing this.
What does that mean?
That she was like, she knew that I was going to be a comedian and not married to her. And that's what that meant.
Wow. You couldn't be both?
Not then.
Man.
I couldn't get married. I couldn't get married.
Jim Brewer is married to the same girl he's with when I met him. I met Jim in 1991
Really?
or 92.
Wow.
Yeah, happy kids, the whole deal. Super happy. She's super nice.
So the problem with stand-up comedy is you don't know where you're going to end up.
Of course.
So when you start, you don't know, can I even do 5 minutes? And then you're
Right.
like, well, can I do 15? Can I get paid? Can I do an
Right.
MC? Can I be consistent? Can I middle? Can I headline?
Right.
You don't know, can I work in a room? Can I
Right.
get on TV? You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't, like, if you go to any other job, you go, well, if you do this, this, and this, then you'll get the promotion, and then you'll
Right.
get that. You have to meet your number, and then you get, oh, okay, I can meet my number. And
Right.
there's no handbook.
Well, not only that, to this day, like my agent called me to schedule something in New York for November, and I said I can't. And I said I'm doing my special in April. I don't know if I'm going to have an hour by November. I assume I will, but I don't know. I go, I'm not going to fuck people over at some big fucking theater and not have an hour yet. I go, I'm gonna do my best. But May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 7 months. Most likely, I'll have a new hour. Most likely. But what if I only have a half hour? What if I only have a half hour and I
Right.
fucking bomb? What if I do a half an hour of good comedy, but not the best, and then have nothing? I can't take that risk. Like, when I'm ready, I'll call you. So when April rolls around, after I'm done and I chuck everything aside, I'm on a fucking rampage for like 3-4 months of just doing 10, 15-minute spots, writing a bunch of new shit, and trying to piece together an hour. Then it's going to take me a month or two to try to sort that hour out,
Yeah.
try to figure out where everything goes and what the punchlines are, listening to recordings, writing things down, burning the midnight oil late at night. I don't know if I could do it. I mean, I'm assuming I could do it, but once I chuck my act aside, once the act that you saw that you thought was funny, that fucking thing's going in the toilet. It's over. It's over, baby.
I'm lucky in the sense that no one saw my last special, so I get to do those jokes. I get to keep doing those jokes.
But what about your fans?
No, so I did. This is funny, right? So I did 2 Comedy Central specials. Then I did my last one was for Hulu, and it was in I think 2015, maybe, or 14, 15, and so because of my YouTube show, I sell tickets now. So people come out, and so I got. I was doing a show maybe 6 months ago, and I do the opening joke from my special, and it kills. And I go, you motherfuckers, none of you saw my special. And then I was upset for a second, and then I was like, oh, I get to do those jokes again.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I'm going to do my own special and put it out on my own thing, because I don't know where that even, like that Hulu special, it's only it lives on Hulu somewhere.
Is Hulu still a thing? It's still a thing, right?
Hulu's still a thing.
Right, I'm thinking of CISO. CISO's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
CISO went under.
Yeah.
That's where Stanhope had a special, Diaz had a special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a bunch of guys who were really funny people had specials on CISO, and now CISO is not, it doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that going
Went
under.
Yeah. They've tried that a bunch. CISO was a Sony thing, right? Wasn't it? Or was it NBC?
I thought it was NBC.
NBC, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Now, like, Sony had Crackle, right?
That's just such a funny.
Remember
I
they
was
had
thinking of that
Crackle?
Paul F. Tompkins bit about Crackle. What did they call
What is it?
Crackle? I can't remember how it went, but it was,
If they called
Crackle, it would be.
It'd be cute.
It's so funny. I can't remember how it goes, but it's so funny.
Yeah. Well, there's
But
not enough
are you
venues.
happier now than I got to tell you? I was happier before.
What do you mean?
I was happier when my whole life was ahead of me, and like when I first started hanging out at Largo and doing sets at the Improv and being and meeting all my heroes in comedy. Like, to me, that was a headier time. Now it's like I feel pressure to stay where I'm at or be success. I don't know what it is I feel, but I feel like I'm working too hard and I'm not able to enjoy what I've accomplished, and that's why I've been trying to, like I told you, you showed me that tank. I've been trying to figure out how to stop my thoughts.
You can come in the tank anytime you want. Don't don't come in the tank. But you could, because people do that. But you can. There's a tank center out near
me in Pasadena. I'll go to that.
Giant place. Find out the name of that place. Give them a shout out. But the Float Lab in Venice is my spot. That's the spot that built my tank. They have a place in Westwood, and they are the best in the world. And they actually supply the tanks to the place in Pasadena. The guy who put this, my friend Crash, who put it in our studio. Just Float. Just Float is the place in Pasadena, and I'm pretty sure it's the largest float center in the world.
So does that help you stop thinking?
No, the opposite. I think in there, but I relax. It's very relaxing physically because the water is warm and you float, and you can do it after the show if you want. I got another show that goes till 2 if you want.
Okay.
You totally can.
Thank you for the offer. Let me
you would
think
be the
about it.
second person outside of me to be in there. Dan Harris from ABC Good Morning America is the only other guy that's been in there. Dan is a big meditation proponent.
So I tried meditating and it just hurts my back and
That will be really good for your
Yeah.
back because you become weightless. You just float in there. And the water's the same temperature as the surface of your skin, so you don't feel the water after a while. And you're in total darkness and total silence, and you just chill out in there, man.
Well, I'm gonna.
It feels good. I
know.
love it.
I got to do it. I got to do something. Where I heard this thing by Alan Watts, and he talked about how we know how to prepare for life. We don't know how to enjoy life once it gets here.
You got to get good at that, man. That's something that you really need to concentrate on. I know you're doing really well right now, and I'm a fan of yours. So when you say you're not happy, that bums me out.
I'm stressed.
Yeah, well, you got to figure out a way to enjoy this thing.
I know. That's what I'm trying.
You got to be more silly. Do you smoke weed?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll smoke a little bit more. Just enjoy it a little bit more.
I like smoking weed in the morning, and now I can't because I have to fucking do stuff all day.
Oh, you definitely can. Yeah, you definitely trust me. It can be done.
But then I can't do anything.
You can. No, you can. Do you exercise?
No, I can't exercise. That's my problem. I used to be athletic. I used to love sports.
You can't at all because of your gallbladder?
No, because of my
your bones.
I can't. Every once in a while, I'll forget.
Could you do yoga or anything?
No. My doctor told me don't.
Don't do anything. Your doctor
He
said.
told me to swim.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Swimming's great.
So he said I could swim.
Oh, okay. So
the most boring thing. In the
but I
fucking
like
world.
swimming, man. I like getting high and swimming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it feels good. But you can't ever exercise like lifting weights or anything along those lines because of your bone issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that lifting weights would enhance your bone density.
It just hurts. That's
Just
why
hurts.
I can't.
Right.
I can't even pick up a suitcase really.
Really? Fuck, man.
Have to be. I forget often, and I will, and then and then my back hurts for the whole day.
Your back. Yeah.
So yeah, because anyway, but it's about becoming present. And I've been listening to this guy Eckhart Tolle. Do you know who he is?
Yeah. Power of Now. I read that book.
Did you?
Yeah.
So that is really getting me.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really getting me, when things frustrate you, I love what he says. He goes, the world isn't here to make you happy. It's here to frustrate you so you wake up.
Huh.
When I'm like, so now you can use your frustrations as reminders to wake up. And so whenever and it's hard because, I have a temper and and that's the weird thing. Now I hid my temper and my anger through my stand-up, and I was successful. I had specials and everything, but now I don't hide it, and now I'm really sick. Now I'm selling tickets, right? Because that's their ultimate goal. Is if you could sell tickets, then you don't need anybody. But
I don't know why it seems like there's some sort of internal conflict between you getting angry and ranting and talking about things that are very important to you and then going on stage and doing stand-up. I don't think that they should be mutually exclusive.
No, I'm trying to bring them together now. So now my wife would always tell me, you got to rant on your stand-up set. You got to rant. You got to get angry. And I was like, okay, and I would never really do it.
Well, you just got to balance it out. Just got to find out a way to make that rant funny and then, find perspectives that are relatable where you go into this rant but then bring it to these people in a digestible way, Yeah.
What's happening is I'm showing videos now at my live shows, and those get me into that groove. And I just dropped a video.
What kind of videos?
Like I just dropped a video about I did a live show at the Flappers in Burbank, and I showed a video of Keith Olbermann apologizing to John McCain and George Bush on The View. And that,
what?
Yeah.
What is that?
So I don't know, he was talking to Meghan McCain. And
is this recently?
This was a couple months ago.
Is he going crazy? Because he retired from that show that he was doing in a basement.
So Trump excites the lizard brain of a certain kind of neoliberal. And Olbermann's certainly one of those guys. He pretends all the problems in our country started on January 2017, and that's certainly not it. Like, he was great. He could deconstruct what was wrong with Hillary Clinton back in 2008 when she was running against Barack Obama, and he could deconstruct what was wrong with the Iraq War and what was wrong with Bush and Cheney. But I don't know what, somehow all of a sudden now it's like again, Trump excites his lizard brain, and all his critical thinking skills go out the window, and he pretends that that Trump is the problem and not a symptom of the problem.
Well, it was like a scene in a movie when he was doing that. It looked like he was doing a show in the basement somewhere with this weird background. He was called The Resistance. This is The Resistance. But he was also, wasn't making connections. Like, was that really pretty conservative girl, Tammy Lauren? Is that her name? She did a thing where she was covered in the American flag, and he was talking about how hypocritical it is to be standing there holding and draping yourself in the American flag. And then Donald Trump Jr. posts a picture of Tammy Lauren right next to him doing the same thing. And Donald Trump Jr. says it must be painful to be so stupid. Well, I don't even understand how he could have not known he took that picture to be saying
he's draped in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, how could he not know that he took that picture?
So he admitted on...
He's so smart.
Well, that's the thing.
You listen to him. He's incredibly articulate. I love the skill in which he writes and
he's a great broadcaster.
Yes.
I mean, I was just... Keith Olbermann, that's the whole thing. Yeah, I was a huge fan.
Yeah, and was great with sports. I mean, he's got this sort of old schooly type delivery that I enjoy.
He's a great broadcaster, and you always hear stories about his idiosyncrasies, like he's a prick to work with and stuff. And you go, well, fuck, okay, then what are you going to do? So who cares? I don't work with him. I want to watch him, right?
Well, that's the truth with a lot of people that are apparently. One of the things about being great at something is a lot of it you're fucking fanatical about it.
Yeah.
You get crazy and you get completely obsessed, and something is
you're
imbalanced.
rigid.
Yeah, your people skills are out the window because you're so completely concentrated on something else.
Yes. Yeah. So I can. So he apologized. He said that Donald Trump was worse than 9/11, and Meghan McCain said, "Do you really believe that?" And his big comeback to that was, "Your father was my favorite political figure of the 21st century." And I'm like, really? Who was the second? Bernie Madoff? Are you fucking kidding me? John McCain's a warmonger who thrust Sarah Palin on us. And
who was playing poker while they were trying to decide the fate of lives.
Yeah.
Remember that whole thing when they were talking? Do you remember that thing where John McCain? They were in the middle of what was the exact scenario? They were in the middle of some meeting in the Senate, and they were deciding something incredibly important, and they busted McCain playing poker on his phone. Syria, yeah, it was about bombing Syria. Look at this.
Because he's for it. He doesn't need to hear
But look, there he is, playing poker, war games. McCain caught playing poker on iPhone during Syria debate. Just fucking imagine the type of person that could do that. You're in the middle of talking about dropping bombs
that are going to kill people.
Yeah, they're absolutely going to kill people. And they're going to come flying out of fucking high-speed jets.
Yeah.
And he's there playing poker. This is boring. I need to find out if I can get another ace. Ace in the hole, baby. Up my sleeve. Suck on it. I mean.
So this is what and he called Rand Paul a Putin puppet because he was against Ukraine joining NATO. I mean, that's what that kind of shit John McCain, there might be, I said this at a live show. I go, I don't disrespect his service. Nobody disrespects his service except the president of the United States.
Trump, which was the craziest thing ever. I like people who don't get caught. I was like, how the fuck can you say that? So much of the shit that he has said just bounces off of him. Like, I was at the Comedy Store the other night, and somebody was trying to say that Stormy Weathers chick, is that her name?
Yeah.
Stormy Weathers? Stormy Daniels. Sorry, Stormy.
I thought it was Weathers, too.
Who the fuck was saying it? I forget who said it. But they were saying, oh, she's our Monica Lewinsky. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Who's our Monica?
That Stormy Daniels is going to tank
What?
Donald Trump. I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. I go, it's going to go right off his skin like a water on a duck. It's not even going to affect him.
At all.
He's going to say, fake news, never happened. And he's going to keep moving, and that's going to be the end of it. And he's like, no fucking way. He's going to get in trouble for that. I'm like, no, he's not. It's not going to be anything. You don't understand all the things that he's done so far. Grab him by the pussy, all these different things. It's like Charlie Sheen. I read an article once that said, when is the Me Too movement going to hit Charlie Sheen? I'll answer that, fucking never. You know why? Because you can't shame someone who doesn't have any shame.
Right.
It doesn't work.
That's it.
If someone's not embarrassed, you cannot embarrass them.
Right.
You know? I mean, if someone says to you, hey, Jimmy Dore, what are you, a fucking comedian? You're like, yeah, I'm a comedian.
Yeah. People call me dumb.
Yeah.
I'm like, I call myself dumb.
Yeah, that's not going to get
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, you need something more than that. Charlie Sheen, what are you, a fucking whoremonger? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. It's well documented. I smoke crack and I bang whores. Any other questions? I got to go bang whores and smoke crack. I don't have time for this. I have HIV.
And that's
Gotta go.
And that's how
It's not going to work. Charlie Sheen is out there doing terrible things to women. Yeah, he pays them. That's what he does with all that fucking 2.5 Men money.
That's how I always felt about being a comedian. Like, I don't play by, you don't get to judge me. I fucking judge you. Like,
well, you're very aggressive. Look at that.
Pointing
and shit.
I never advocated for a war like the Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, and CNN. You're going to judge me over some fucking thing I said or did. I never advocated for a war. I never fired a guy who was speaking out against a war like MSNBC did in the New York Times.
Who did MSNBC fire?
Phil Donahue.
Oh,
Phil Donahue had the number one show on the network at the time, and they fired him because he was against the Iraq War. That's your MSNBC.
Is that really why they fired him?
And the first time Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes says anything that costs MSNBC a nickel, they will be fucking fired. Just like, and that's why they don't. They don't. And they're paid $30,000 a workday. 30,000.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what she gets?
A workday.
Powerful Rachel Maddow.
Yeah. And
do you like her?
I used to think she was just like Keith Olbermann. They were fantastic, and then Trump excites their lizard brain, and she's lost her mind. She's pushing a fucking Red Scare and McCarthyism, and she should be ashamed. She should be shunned.
Do you think that she's doing that rationally? Do you think that she is confused?
I've seen her completely.
That she is being coerced and pushed into that certain direction?
I think she's being coerced and pushed, but I think she goes along willingly.
Because she's getting that
30K a day. She's not going to talk out against...
Just make a T-shirt.
She's
30K a day.
30K a day, I will.
You can have your way.
I mention it all the time on my show. Could I steal that phrase?
Yeah,
if I put
it's
it
a good phrase.
Okay,
please.
I think I may make...
30K a day and you can have your way.
The real problem is neoliberalism, Joe. The real problem is the system, and they'll never talk about that.
It's also tribalism, right? Anything that opposes the other side must be good, right? And anything you can use on them must be good.
Well, that's what's happening right now with Trump.
Yes.
And it's disgusting. It's like there's a way to oppose Trump, and it's not the way you're doing it. In fact, the way they're doing it enhances Trump. It makes him more powerful. You keep coming at him that his guy with the battered wife, he didn't know, gives a... And meanwhile, they're spending $160 billion more on bombs that nobody wants. Meanwhile, half the country's poor or low income. 63% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency. In the richest country the face of the earth has ever seen, all the benefits of this recovery has gone to the upper 1%. People haven't had a raise. I just saw the AFL-CIO, so like I was telling you, people give me shit because I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton, right? And I just saw the AFL-CIO tweeted out last week that the unions have helped give Democrats complete control of government 4 times in the last 3 decades, and they have done nothing to help unions. And they're saying vote third party. They got together with the teachers union and the postal union, and they're like, hey, lesser of evil voting isn't working. We have to somehow come up with a third party. So they're talking about it now. So people who are wagging their finger at me, I go, hey, even the unions agree with me now that we got to have a third party. And if Bernie Sanders would have went with a third party instead of propping up that corporatist warmonger like he did, he could have really changed politics in America. If Jill Stein and the Green Party would have got 10 or 15% of the vote, or even 5% of the vote, it would have completely changed politics in America, because now the Democrats, they wag their finger at their base and then they move to the right. Like Hillary Clinton wagged her finger at the base and then picked Tim Kaine, who was to the right of her. Right. And so if Bernie Sanders would have went with the Greens and they would have made a showing, now they can't do that. They can't dismiss them anymore. Now they have to come together in a coalition.
Right. But she was doing it in a calculated manner to try to get some Republicans that thought that Donald Trump was repulsive.
Hillary Clinton, their whole strategy was fuck over working people and we're going to try to get white collar Republicans.
Yeah.
That's not what your party is. There's already a party for those people.
Right.
There's a party. It's called the Republican Party. You're supposed to be the party of fucking workers. And that's why we don't have an opposition party in this country, Joe. And we have two parties that are pro-management. You know that Nissan has 49 plants around the world. 3 of them are not union. You know where those 3 plants are?
The
United fucking States. So we got a broken system, right? The problem is the Democrats are bought by the same people. They're just a little, and people go, why did the Democrats keep caving? Why didn't they stand up against Trump for DACA? They're not caving. They're standing up to you, the voter, and they're standing up to their donors. Their donors don't want the government shut down for 1 minute, and that's who they're standing up for. They could have stood up for the voters and stood up for DACA, but they didn't. They stood up for their donors. So it's not like they're spineless. They appear spineless because it looks like they're not doing what they're supposed to or what they're not. And they're not doing what they said they would do, which is stand up for the people, but they're secretly standing up for their donors. They have a steel spine when it comes to their donors, which is why they just gave Trump $160 billion. Can I make one last point about Donald Trump? So this shows you how they're full of shit. When you say Donald Trump is an existential threat to our country and a maniac and he has his finger on the button, and then you vote to give him $160 billion more in bombs, I think you're full of shit when you say he's an existential maniac. When you say that this guy is unhinged and he can't be trusted, and then you vote to expand his warrantless wiretapping and spying powers on his own enemies in the country, that's when I know you're full of shit. Because if they really wanted to check Trump, they would check him on the military, the Pentagon budget, and his spying powers. And they've expanded all that stuff. So if he's really a maniac, those motherfuckers are the most irresponsible people in the world, giving him all this extra power for the Pentagon and spying. But they know. The only reason they hate Trump because he ain't part of their fucking club.
Ooh, Jimmy Dore just laid it down. Now you're going to get hate mail from people that are Hillary Clinton supporters. It's going to come. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I've been getting it since 2016.
The thing that always killed me about Hillary Clinton more than when I would talk to super Democrats, like people that were just completely tribal. They're on the Democratic side no matter what. I go, she didn't support gay marriage until 2013.
She was the last one.
Yeah.
There was a sexual harasser on her campaign in 2008, and she didn't fire the fucking guy. In fact, she covered for him, and then he went on to sexually harass again in another organization tied to Hillary Clinton. Correct the record.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, I think when you're close to her, you find out all the dirty details of what's going on behind the scenes, and it's just a creepy organization.
She was such a flawed person for feminists to wrap their flag around. She's not the person. There was another woman running in that race, and it was Jill Stein. I voted for her.
Nobody cared about her, though. It was a weird one.
It's because Trump. It was exactly what Hillary Clinton wanted. The Pied Piper strategy. You can't even entertain not voting for Hillary Clinton because of this existential threat of Trump, and he's such an existential threat. We're going to vote to expand his spying powers and give him a bloated military budget.
Well, it was all this hashtag I'm with her stuff too, where they wanted to have one female president that would be a historical victory. That's why so many people were crying on television.
I get that.
Because they were watching an Avengers movie. They weren't really involved in the actual political process itself. They didn't understand what was happening, and they didn't understand who she really was.
That's it.
From the beginning to the end. If you go and there's just so much evidence. You remember that off-camera interview where she was talking about Gaddafi? We saw, he died. Ha ha ha. She's laughing like
that's a psychopath.
What kind of a person is that? That's a crazy person.
And now Libya is a failed state.
Exactly.
It's a failed state. It's a
terrifying
haven for terrorists. Slavery is back.
Yes. Did you see that shit?
Yes.
On YouTube, you can watch slave trade. In Libya.
That's her success story.
Yeah, it's horrific.
But let me ask you a question, Joe. I don't know if you like one of my big things is the reason why I have a show is because mainstream news media sucks so bad, and the reason why you have this show is because late night talk shows suck so bad, right? and it's established.
Well, they're stuck. They have commercials, and they have these things that they do, and they have Tide.
But they would never have this conversation.
No, someone would come in, Jimmy, Joe. Listen, you can't.
Listen,
this is not the time for this. You guys want to talk about this in your own time? It's not the time. Hillary is. There's a lot of Hillary supporters on staff, and they're very upset right now, and they feel that you guys are misogynists.
Did you see Jimmy Fallon? No, I don't know Jimmy Fallon, and I've only bumped into him, and he's always been a gentleman.
He's a very nice guy.
A gentleman and a nice guy, and nothing bad to say about Jimmy Fallon. But they did a segment where they had Hillary Clinton on, and his writers came out, and they all wrote thank you notes, and they read them to Hillary Clinton. And at first I'm like, this is going to be hilarious. And then it wasn't. It was actual sincerely they were thanking her.
For what?
For being a woman and running for fucking president.
The fact you guys shot him and left his wallet and his watch there, that was amazing.
That was a botched robbery, Joe. And
yeah, sure. 4 o'clock in the morning.
Did you see
no one took anything from him?
See, Donna Brazil.
He just happened to leak. Yeah, she called him a fucking hero.
Donna Brazil said that was scared her to death. She started pulling the blinds in her office.
Yeah, she should.
So now the Washington Post, this is what I wanted to ask you. They wrote a whole thing about how anybody who questions Seth Rich is crazy.
Of course, they do that. They make you look like you're a fool because it's a conspiracy theory. And you say conspiracy theorist, and you're a whack job.
But
just put
the
it down
Russia
on
thing
paper.
is one big conspiracy theory.
Right, but just put it down on paper. Let's just look at real hard facts. Seth Rich was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Seth Rich was a patriot. Seth Rich, according to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, which have not been proven to be liars.
Never had to retract anything they printed.
They've never had to do that. he's saying that he leaked stuff to him. There are consequences leaking stuff to WikiLeaks. Seth Rich was murdered at 4 o'clock in the morning, shot in the back. They said it was a botched robbery, but no one took anything from him, and there's never been anyone that's charged with it, and there's no suspects. I don't know. I don't know what happened to him, but that looks very suspicious.
Well, you're not even allowed to ask questions because
Right.
I covered that story one day. I covered it one day because that guy Wheeler came out and he was saying he had all this, he saw the computer and all this stuff. So I covered that.
Right, and you're a piece of shit.
And
you're a conspiracy theorist.
In that video I did, I literally said, I don't know if this is true. We're waiting for evidence. Unlike the mainstream news media with their Russia bullshit, we're going to wait for evidence.
Right.
I literally said that inside that. And then the next day I did another video which debunked that guy Wheeler who was pushing that story because he turned out he was full of shit.
So what was the response, though?
People still to this day fucking smear me with that. They go,
Well-
oh, you pushed it. I would do a news show. I covered a news show. By the way, why aren't you allowed to ask questions about an open murder investigation?
Well, not only that, this is a real look. This is a guy who is a real Bernie Sanders supporter, open Bernie Sanders supporter who worked for the DNC. The DNC absolutely rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. He was aware of this. He was there while this was all going down. So was Donna Brazile. Everyone was aware of it. The guy got fucking murdered after he leaked information to WikiLeaks. If you don't think that's a little weird, what are you looking at? What delusional rose-colored glasses are you looking at your party from? You think you're in some Julia Roberts movie from 1990? This is real shit. Some guy got killed. He was 24 years old. He was a young guy who was very optimistic and had this view of the world where the guy fucking wore American flag pants and shirt. There's a famous picture of him with a beer on. He's a patriot in a lot of ways. He wanted to be involved in the political process. He was very idealistic. He was probably shattered by finding out that the party that he was working for was corrupting the democratic process. And because I've said this before, I've been accused of helping Donald Trump win by really wacky people online, like by pointing out all the flaws of Hillary Clinton. Like, look, man, you can't ignore that shit because you want one side to win. I've talked about all of his flaws too. There's a lot of flawed human beings that run for president, pretty much all of them. I mean, it's very rare you have someone who's not flawed. We're
Right.
extremely flawed. We're all flawed, but extremely flawed who wants to be the fucking king of the world. It's very rare.
Well, not to change subjects, but Barack Obama, everyone thinks is the greatest guy in the world, in contrast to Donald Trump because he was polite.
He's a statesman.
He was
a very good speaker.
He was like, but he was polite. At the same time, he let cops crack the heads of peaceful protesters that Occupy Wall Street all across the country. He said he put on a soft shoe to stand up for unions. He fucked over unions in Wisconsin when they took the teachers' union away. He opened the Arctic to drilling twice. Whenever Shell Oil wanted, he said okay, and he only closed it when they didn't want to do it anymore. He took us from 2 wars to 7. He cooked out 5.1 million families out of their homes instead of helping them, and he made Wall Street whole while fucking over everybody else. So this guy, he made the Bush tax cuts permanent. So there was what they say is it looked like it was change on the outside, continuity on the inside.
Well, the Hope and Change website had to be altered because there was all these things in there about whistleblowers,
and then he
offering
prosecuted them.
Exactly, but he took it out of the website.
Right.
He had all these sections in the website about offering protection for whistleblowers. And also, they were like the worst when it came to the press.
Yes,
when it came to the press and people and freedom of the press and people getting in trouble for leaking information, they were the worst. The worst, much worse than Bush.
They used the Espionage Act to prosecute journalists.
Yes.
And that's a fact. And everyone turned their head. Glenn Greenwald used to be a hero on the left until he started telling the truth about Barack Obama,
Right.
and now he's a pariah.
Right.
So to the people on, Thomas Frank, I don't know if you know, you would love that guy if you ever met him. He wrote that book called What's the Matter with Kansas, which is examining what's wrong with conservatives. And then he wrote a book called Listen Liberal, which came out, I think, 2 years ago. And he is persona non grata on MSNBC, CNN. Nobody will talk to him because he critiqued the left. And he talked
stepped
about,
out of line.
Yeah, you can't.
There's no room for discourse.
He can't even get a job in the United States. He has to write for The Guardian in England. That's a true story. So I've had him on my show. People love him. And he comes on and he tells the truth about the left. Thomas Frank. And he's got a great sense of humor, too. And he's real personable. And he's an academic, but he doesn't talk like one. And his book is Listen Liberal is what radicalized me to not be able to vote for Hillary Clinton. It opened my eyes to all the people still fucking blame Ralph Nader. It's just unbelievable. Like, you're allowed to participate in fucking democracy. And Hillary Clinton was the only candidate in the history of politics who wasn't expected to garner votes by campaigning. You just were supposed to owe her your fucking votes. If she doesn't have the votes, you're supposed to go get the fucking votes.
Yeah.
That's how it works. It's the first time ever I've ever seen people.
She was of poor health. I mean,
It's voter shame.
She was having a really hard time.
Donna
doing
Brazile
what she
almost
was
wanted to
doing.
replace her. She said in the book, Donna Brazile said her health was so bad, they wanted to replace her.
That was another thing that I got in trouble for. Not
Me
got
too.
in trouble for, but people were saying, like, why do you keep talking about her health? Because it's a huge issue. And also, I happen to know a lot about brain trauma.
She had brain trauma,
Yeah.
and she passes out. They said she was hot. She didn't take her coat off.
Listen, I've been hot many times. I go in the sauna all the time. I never faint. Okay, and I don't want to run for president. Listen, you can't just fall asleep while you're standing up and be president. That's not in the books. Like, I have a joke about it in my act. Like, I was like, if that was my mom, I'd be like, Mom, you can't be president. You can't stand up fast. I mean, it's true. If Hillary couldn't stand up fast, her eyes would roll back behind her head, and she'd fucking crack her head off the linoleum. That's just a fact. But if you say that, you're a misogynist. You're alt-right. I've been called alt-right for that. Like, you're helping
Trump.
Donald Trump win.
You're helping Trump.
This Seth Rich thing is a real symptom, and the ignoring of that case is a real symptom of what is wrong with this toxic tribalism. You can't discuss it.
Listen, that's crazy that you're even talking about it. I can't believe that you talk about it so openly. What do people don't try to discredit you because of this?
It doesn't matter. You can't. What do I do? I'm a cage fighting commentator. Go ahead. I'm a pot addict. I smoke the pot. I got problems. Listen, man, I'm not a fucking reputable person.
That's what I try to tell
my
people.
Political ideologies. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not that well read when it comes to politics. I have my opinions on things, but when it comes to things that are rock solid and clear, like that Seth Rich was murdered and people want to ignore it, I'm like, what the fuck do you think happened? There has to be some sort of a disconnect here. When a person is giving information to WikiLeaks that exposes corruption inside the very organization that's responsible for the fucking Democratic Party, and he gets murdered, and you're like, oh, the conspiracy theories. No, he got murdered. There's no conspiracy. It was a botched robbery. Says who? Says who? Where's his? How come his wallet was there? How come his watch was there? How come they didn't take his phone? What the fuck are you talking about that I'm a conspiracy theorist when I just tell you the facts? So and this WikiLeaks thing with Julian Assange is the craziest shit ever when he said there's consequences to sharing information with us. And everybody's like, he works for Russia now. He works for Russia.
So
he was the darling of the left when Obama was in office.
So isn't that amazing? So Julian Assange, he's just a great news guy who's tough as nails.
Who dances creepy and might have fucked some girl while she was asleep. Whatever. He can't leave. He's stuck in the Ecuador embassy
by the
forever.
way, that case was so fucked.
So fucked.
He's been so fucked, and it's because the CIA wants him so bad, and they control everybody. And now they have influence over Ecuador, and they're trying to fuck. They're trying to get a Halliburton guy to be their new. Anyway,
they might just blow up that place. It's a gas leak.
No doubt. Right? I wouldn't be surprised if shit like that happened.
If more stuff comes out, like the Seth Rich stuff, the amount of people, and this is where I leak any conspiracy theories. The amount of people connected to Hillary Clinton organization, to the Clinton Foundation, to Bill Clinton, the amount of people that have been iced is stunning. But some of them are bullshit and coincidental, and you know people, and they're in a weird job, and people get killed. There's a lot of people that have been killed. A lot.
But don't you think, what I love when they talk about the Uranium One story like it's debunked?
Right.
Bill Clinton got $500,000 put directly in his pocket from a Kremlin bank. Directly, and then $142 million flowed into the Clinton Foundation, and it was a bunch of motherfuckers surrounded a nuclear deal because they wanted to do charity.
So what's the argument that it was debunked?
They say, oh no, this is she was only one of 9 things that had to sign off on. There was all these other agencies that had to sign off on it, and this and that. It's all bullshit. That was all influence. Someone gave your Clinton Foundation $142 million. That's to buy influence, and $500,000 in the Bill Clinton's pocket directly. It's because they like how he talks pretty English in Russia. Are you fucking kidding me? So it's all bullshit. So people go, oh, it's debunked. It's not debunked. It's not fucking. You tell me why they gave $142 million anonymously to a fucking Clinton Foundation. That is such bullshit. They're so corrupt. If you believe Trump is corrupt by doing deals with oligarchs, this is Dylan Ratigan talking. You also have to believe that Hillary Clinton did arms deals around the country while personally enriching herself, and Barack Obama is paid off by the Wall Street and the health insurance companies and big pharma, so we don't have a functioning money sector or a healthcare sector. It's hard to believe one and not believe the other two. That's what Dylan Ratigan says, and I believe that fucking guy. He's an award-winning journalist, and he said, if you believe Trump is corrupt in this, and he goes, and it's easy to believe, so no fucking problem, but you also have to believe this. You have to believe Hillary Clinton did arms deals all around the world, enriching herself to the tunes of millions of dollars. The same thing with Barack Obama. You can't believe one and not the other. So my whole point is, when people try to pretend that Trump is the problem, they're missing the problem. The problem is the neoliberal system that gave us Trump, that renders 63% of the population without enough funds to handle a $1,000 emergency in the richest country in the world. That's the problem, Joe. And that's what people are. If you think it's Trump, Trump is a symptom of a bigger problem. I don't even think that guy wants to be president.
He doesn't. He does. I think he fucked up.
And
I think he was running to build up his brand, and like, shit,
it's the dog who caught the car.
I'm biting tires now.
And people
bumpers taste like shit.
And these people hate him so much they want to impeach him. Right.
One of my favorite parts of the election process was when he was saying, "I gave you money. I gave you money. I gave you money."
That so again,
it's one of my favorite parts.
I would say stuff. I was like, God, who would have thought it would be Trump to fucking out these people?
I know,
because he did. He did.
You know, when Obama was mocking him at that press junket thing. What is that thing?
Yeah, it was at the War Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah, the Correspondents' Dinner. When he was mocking him, he said, "One thing that I am that you'll never be, President of the United States." And you see Trump sitting there going, "Oh yeah, motherfucker," and like that very well could have been like. He was talking about running for president in the 80s, right? But he never did.
Never did.
Right? Thought about it in the 2004 election, never did. But that fucking straw snapped.
And he did it.
And we're on.
He did it. And
now he's in. Do you think that it's a good thing to have someone as fucked up as he is, like in terms of like how we view a president, in terms of like all the grabbing by the pussy and the paying off 100 women, all the crazy shit and all the lies, like he gets caught in lies all the time.
So you tell me what's worse. Donald Trump says grab him by the pussy, or Barack Obama says I'm going to fix everything for you, and then he kicks your family out of your house, 5.1 million families out of their house, while making Wall Street whole. And then when he comes back into public life after retiring, the first thing he does is give $500,000 speeches to banks. You fucking tell me what's worse.
Is that what he's doing now?
That's what he did, yeah. When he went windsurfing with Branson, and then he came back and he gave speeches to the Carlyle Group and some other people. I had $500,000 a crack.
Well, he needs to buy shit.
And Chris Hedges says, which is why I love Chris Hedges. He was a guy who told the truth about the Iraq War, and the New York Times fired him for it, which is why the New York Times, you can't fucking believe that. You can't listen to these establishment newspapers when they talk about war, right? So, no, I fucking forgot what I was saying. God damn it.
Obama coming back into office.
Yeah, so Chris Hedges says they steal right out in the open now. They don't even try to hide it. And that's what that is.
Well, that was one of the funniest things about the Bernie Sanders-Hillary Clinton debates. He's like, why don't you release the transcripts? Release the transcripts.
That must have been some kind of a speech. $600,000. I'd love to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I mean,
that
it was
fucking
brilliant.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah,
By the way,
stuff.
people we're so fucked up in this country, Joe, that we nominate the most repulsive neoliberal corporatist warmonger in the history of the Democratic Party, the most unpopular nominee ever. She loses to a fucking game show host that doesn't even want to be president. And what do? We blame another country. We blame another country. Talk about not wanting to examine the system that gave us. And that's all they'll talk about is blaming another country.
And what is the big news of the week that we really concentrate on? His hair flopping off in the breeze in France. His hair opens up and you see the back of his head. Oh,
I admit I did a video on that.
Look at the comb over. Look at the comb over. Look at it. It's right there.
Well,
we all knew.
But it was dramatic the way it blew. It was dramatic the way it blew open. It was like a wing opened, right?
It was like you seeing something you're not supposed to see.
Yes.
Like up a skirt.
It was like his head had an ass.
Yes. I heard that someone say that. Yes. That's a good way of looking at it. Like his head was mooning us.
Yeah. It was and by the way, people are going to mistake everything I'm saying for defending Trump.
Why wouldn't he shave his head? Take it from a guy who's got his head shaved. Donald.
Now, how long ago did you shave your head? Because I don't ever remember you having. Back. I don't ever. It's like you in my head.
2011 maybe, I think. Somewhere
So
around there.
even like when I met you in 2004, whenever that was, I just remembered you as being bald, and even though you weren't, obviously. Now in my head, that memory is.
I do too. I look at pictures of me from Fear Factor. I'm like, oh, I got hair.
I don't remember you ever having hair. Isn't
It
that
was
funny?
hanging on though.
But you're one of those guys who can pull it. I couldn't pull it off.
You could pull it off.
I don't think
You
so.
think you couldn't until you do it, and then you realize.
And
It's
some guys can do
nonsense.
gray hair too. I can't do gray. I fucking look like shit.
Really?
Oh, God.
Can't do it.
I have to dye my hair all the time.
But when you let your hair go gray, you have that aura of, distinguishedness. You're a distinguished gentleman. You have aged and learned, and
Yeah, I don't need it.
no, you don't want to die.
Fuck that. I don't want to die, and I don't need to be distinguished. I want everyone to think I'm the. Jerry Seinfeld, when he was getting an award, he said, I don't like doing this. I don't like getting awards. I'd rather be standing in the corner making fun of the guy getting an award. And that's
Ooh.
exactly how I feel.
Yeah, that's me too. I don't want an award.
I don't want to be in your club. I don't want to,
Yeah.
And so what do you think about the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, the richest guy in the world?
He's fascinating to
And
me.
he sits on a Pentagon board, and he has a $600 million deal with the CIA, and he runs the paper of note.
Wait. $600 million deal with the CIA?
Yeah, which is like something twice as what
Is
his
that what
paper's
Amazon
worth.
Alexa's doing?
So
Amazon Alexa's just gathering up information on everything you do?
Yes, it
That
is.
fucking thing bothers
it
the
is.
shit out of me, yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Jamie and I were just talking about that new Apple Home thing, which has the most amazing microphones. Jamie was saying that while the music is blaring, you can say, hey, Siri, just real quiet, hey, Siri, why don't you suck my dick? Siri's like, I can't do that, sir. Details about the CIA's deal with Amazon. $600 million computing cloud built by an outside company is a radical departure from the risk-averse intelligence community.
So now
Wow.
they're in bed with the Washington Post, or Jeff Bezos.
Jesus
and
Christ.
now he also sits on a Pentagon board.
He's got so much money. He's fascinating to me because, how do you keep going when you have 105 billion? Like, what's getting you up in the morning? Like,
So
what-
he's a megalomaniac, right?
Yeah, he
so
must be.
how do you accumulate more wealth than any person in the history of the world? That means kings, queens.
That's not necessarily true. The reason why is we don't count the same kind of money that the oligarchs have, like especially people that, first of all, people have said that it's very possible that Putin is the richest man alive because they're not counting how much money Putin has stolen from all the various companies that he's just sort of absorbed and that he owns all that stuff. But also we don't count all these kings and these princes in the Middle East. They're not public people. Like, they
Okay.
don't- So
So let's say of all the people we
One of
can
the-
count, he's the richest guy.
a billionaire friend of mine who's a legitimate billionaire told me that it's entirely possible that some of these guys are trillionaires, some of these Middle Eastern guys. He's like, you've never seen wealth like this. It's insane. Do you know in the United Arab Emirates, they make it rain every week? Once a week, they make it rain.
I mean,
They seed the clouds.
Really?
And make it rain. Yeah, because they're in the desert. And they're like, I don't like this. I like it to rain. So they fucking put all that shit that they have to put into the sky to make it rain, which they've been doing forever, cloud seeding, but insanely expensive. But they do it once a week.
so
52 times a year it rains there.
so what do you see a problem with the richest guy in the world owning the political paper of note and being
It's
in bed
spooky.
with the CIA, and he's on a Pentagon board?
Yeah. No, it's all spooky.
It's like some kind of Orwellian fucking nightmare.
well,
that
he's
we're-
got so much money.
And you can't criticize him in the paper. They won't let the people who write for that paper aren't going to fucking
The
criticize.
Washington Post
Yeah.
can't write anything bad about
They're
it.
not going to write.
I couldn't imagine they would even dare.
One guy wrote something bad about Amazon in the Huffington Post. He got disciplined. There was a guy who was a writer for the Washington Post, wrote something in the Huffington Post that was critical of Amazon, and he got disciplined at the Washington Post for doing that. So that's the world we live in. And then we have the government. If you ever try to tell about a crime inside the government, then the government will use the Espionage Act to crack down on you. So we're living in an oligarchy, Joe. Our democracy has already been taken from us. So you know that this isn't a democracy. They've done studies. This is provable.
Was the thing about from the Huffington Post, I mean, to derail us, but was it valid? Was it a valid
Yeah,
criticism?
valid criticism, yeah.
What was it about?
He criticized about how Jeff Bezos treats his workers.
Oh, okay. That has been an open area of discussion that I've talked to someone who actually worked there, and they were saying that they get like a countdown. So say an order comes in, they literally have like a countdown on their tablet, and the countdown says, I don't know what the amount of time is, but you have to run and find that fucking product and get it in the box and get it shipped out inside a very small window of time. He goes, so I'm literally running. I go, you run? He goes, yeah, you literally run, because if you don't meet your countdown, he goes, you can only get away with that for a certain amount of times, then you get in real trouble.
So they also have these new things, the wrists, the bands that they've just developed.
They shock you like
that
a dog?
shock you.
No, were you serious?
Yeah.
I was joking.
Oh
My God, I'm telling you, they just fucking shock you?
He'll pull it up. They'll vibrate, and if you're moving the wrong way, it'll shock you back. It'll shock you back to the right way.
But does it hurt, or is it like, have you ever
I don't think it
driven a
hurts.
new Cadillac?
Yeah.
The new Cadillacs, if you go too close to the side, it gives you like zub 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 zub. Gives you like a little feeling.
Amazon patents
wristbands
designed to track and steer
steer
employees' movements.
Wow.
So Jeff Bezos, it's been reported, which is true, is that he would
That
rather.
guy's not running. Run! I want to get my shit in a day! Run!
So now there's plenty. There's a couple different fixes for this. The problem of this.
Robots.
One of them would be unions, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, my whole thing is, why can't we unionize Amazon? Why can't we unionize Walmart? I know they make it hard. Walmart literally shut down their meatpacking in Texas because the meatpacking group, they unionized in Texas. They, fuck it, we're not going to sell meat anymore in Texas. That's how we'll fuck over the union. So, but we got to figure out a way to get unions in there. There's another thing, Teddy Roosevelt was a trust buster, he was a monopoly buster. 50% of all online purchases go through Amazon.com in the United States.
50%.
Yeah. 51% of households in America have Amazon Prime. Only 49% have a landline. So more people have Amazon Prime in the United States than have a fucking landline. So
what? Is that real?
Mm-hmm. So Teddy Roosevelt would come along and go, we got to break this company up.
Wow.
He would say this is, but first of all, Jeff Bezos, because he owns the paper, Trump was right when he said he's there to get the tax in his favor, because he was able to go around and hollow out economies of Main Street, little small towns all around, because he didn't have to pay taxes, the income tax for Amazon. And so the brick and mortar places did. He closed them down by undercutting them, right? And now he's opening up brick and mortar stores. He closed down all the Barnes and Nobles and the Borders books, and now he's opening up Amazon bookstores. Did you know that?
No.
Yes.
Amazon
so
bookstore.
64%.
64.
There you go.
64.
It's even up higher than from when I looked.
Have Amazon Prime. Now, how many of those people use it for television? This is my question, because I know that Amazon started to make apparently some very good shows, but I don't hear anybody talking about watching them. Like, apparently Billy Bob Thornton has a really good show on Amazon. And I know there was that Jeffrey Tambor show that got tanked. Do you know that's an interesting Me Too story? The Jeffrey Tambor one,
because he was playing a transvestite or
transgender person, and there was people, and he's not transgender, and there's people on the show apparently that were very upset that a non-transgender person was playing a transgender person.
Well, it's acting.
Yeah. Well, they didn't like that, and there was a lot of internal dispute because of that, which may or may not have led to the accusations.
I used to be much harder.
Alleged.
I used to be harder on transgender. When I say harder on transgender, I mean a boner. No, I mean I used to make jokes about them because I didn't understand.
Right.
I didn't understand it was a real thing. I thought it was just guys fucking having fun. I didn't,
right. Well, some of
I was
it
like,
is.
we all like to fucking feel a little weird or whatever. I go, but I don't go out in public.
Right.
And so, but then I realized this is an actual thing with a lot of people, that they're actually born, they have the different feeling than they're outside.
Yeah.
Then I realized it was a thing, and so now I don't do that anymore.
It's gender dysmorphia, there's definitely people that have issues in their mind where they wish that they were a different thing than what they are. I think the thing that concerns me more about transgender people than anything is this acceptance of using hormone blockers for young children. And I just think that is fucking insane. And this is something that the liberal progressives are pushing at an alarming rate. It's a terrifying idea. There's plenty of discussion about this online. There's plenty of people that think that age 6 is a fine year to start this. Yeah, we've had people on the podcast who infiltrated this transgender group, and we're talking about their kid. Their kid identifies with a girl, but the kid is 6, is too young to start. And they were
My
saying
knee jerk
no,
is it's
no.
too young.
They were saying no, it's not. It's studies show that's a good time. They're just horseshitting. They want more people to do it so that they feel better.
Okay.
You ever met a married guy that wants you to get married? Because they're fucking miserable as shit. I don't want to call anybody out, but famous guy have a conversation with a famous guy. He's telling me how great it is to be married.
Mel Gibson?
Because his wife yells at him, tells him what to do and all this shit, and he gets things done this way. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's now divorced. I'm married. Okay, this is many years ago. This guy was fucking miserable, but he was trying to tell me that it's a good thing to be married because when you're married, you have to answer to someone, that someone tells you what to do. I go, what? He was telling me that his wife calls him a fucking asshole and it makes him more. I go, no, my friends don't call me an asshole. Why? Unless if one of my friends calls me a fucking asshole, I made a huge mistake.
That's like living married to your football coach.
Yeah,
who wants to do that?
Fucking throwing buckets of Gatorade on your head. Like, the whole thing was ridiculous, but it was literally, there's a misery loves company thing that happens where people who are married want you to be married too. Now, I'm not saying that's absolutely what's going on with people who are transgender, but they're most certainly in support of more people doing it. And I don't know if that is why they would lean towards having 6-year-olds take hormone blockers. But if you criticize that in any way, you are thought to be transphobic. And this is a real issue today where people are bringing this up over and over again. I don't know why anyone would think that it's a good idea to take a 6-year-old and put them on hormone blockers when they don't know what the fuck is going on with the world. Their body is changing. They're going through all this growth and development. And for you to chemically hijack that for an ideology seems to me, as an outsider, to be fucking insane. But to talk about it, you run the risk of being thought of as being transphobic. It's a very strange time to discuss things because you can't have an opinion about it because, oh, you're a cisgendered white man with all sorts of privilege. Look at you, you macho piece of shit.
Yeah, people like to, or they'll say you're mansplaining.
Exactly.
It's like, well, I'm a guy and I have an opinion, so I'm not allowed to have that opinion ever. I mean, I understand there's a time and a place to say mansplaining, but
sure. But I don't think there is.
But
there's a time and a place to say that someone is talking down to people. If they happen to be a man, that's fine.
Yes.
But the problem with the term mansplaining is
then you're not allowed to
anytime
have
a man is correct, if a woman is saying something that's incorrect and a man corrects her, he's mansplaining.
Yeah.
Well, that's ridiculous.
So that's what it's said. Too often it's turned into that. Just like I said, the hashtag Me Too, we're all against sexual harassment at work, but we're not for Puritanism.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's for people hijacking certain things.
But I think that what's going on with hashtag Me Too and a lot of things in this society is we're undergoing a radical cultural change, and it's brought about by information. I think we are way more aware of each other's feelings, way more aware of what's okay, way more aware of what we're willing to tolerate and what we're not willing to tolerate. And if you go back to the 1930s and the 1940s and watch old films where people would smack the shit out of women and rape them and do all kinds of crazy stuff, and it was thought to be normal. Those are the heroes. The heroes would backhand a woman right across the face.
John Wayne.
Yes.
John Wayne would do that. Remember when he, how about, what's the guy, I forget his name, but he took the grapefruit right in her face.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What was
normal.
What was that guy?
Was that John Wayne or was that?
No, that's the short guy.
Yeah. Fuck.
Oh, I can't think.
Mickey Rooney.
No, the other short guy. Fuck.
Was it? Oh, Jim Cagney.
James Cagney.
Cagney, yes.
I can't believe I couldn't think of his name.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
Yeah, you did, though.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, here
right
it comes. Yeah.
Give me some volume, see? Let me hear some volume.
I didn't ask you for any lip. I asked you if you had a drink.
I know, Tom, but... Well, gee, I wish that...
There you go down wishing stuff again. I wish you was a wishing well. So that I could tie a bucket to you and sink you.
What a dick.
Wow, that's kind of an asshole thing
Maybe
to
you
say.
found someone you like better.
So she says that, and he sticks the grapefruit right in her face.
Oh. Wow, that is kind of that's a dick move.
It's a ruthless fucking scene. Horrible.
Wow.
Now try to do that today. Maybe, have some, name a guy who's a...
Ryan
Bradley
Gosling.
Cooper.
Okay.
Yeah. One of those guys. One of them handsome fellas. Do it to some beautiful, young... Name a girl who's a good...
Emma Stone.
Yeah. How about that? Sucks a grapefruit in her face. People be like, what the fuck movie is this?
And then she just kind of cries.
She doesn't even react. Oh. Men beat the fuck out of women back then. It was normal.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So I think what those things represent, obviously it's fiction, right? But what it also represents is what was acceptable culturally to witness in a film. That is not acceptable culturally to witness in a film now, especially from the fucking hero of the show. I think today we're more aware than ever before of how people feel, of how people think, of what's acceptable, what's not, and what was wrong with the way people used to behave. Whereas it was just, we were operating on momentum in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. The internet came along and people were just sharing information at this unprecedented pace.
Yeah. I just found out about John Lennon.
What about him?
That he admitted to beating his girlfriends.
Really?
Did you
Maybe
know
he
that?
heard Yoko Ono sing. You gotta give him cut him a break.
But it was when he was younger, and he said, I have to make up for the things. I can't deny what I did. I have to make up for it. I was like, whoa, you don't want to hear that,
I read
right?
that about Hendrix too.
No.
Yeah. See if you can find that. Dude, the Hendrix story is very disturbing because Hendrix might have been murdered. It's very possible that
Really?
Hendrix was murdered. You don't have to imagine John Lennon beat women and children. It was just a fact. Beat children? Who did he beat? What children? Terrible things the famous asshole did during his life. Is that written by a woman? Hashtag me too. Yeah, it was a different time. I bet a lot of people did terrible things back then.
I guess he wasn't one of his kids. He wasn't nice to. I forget which one, Julian or the other.
He
Anyway,
beat him?
it's tough. It's not. You don't want to. Steve Martin's dad. Did you ever read his book? He talks about how his dad hit him a little too hard one time, and they were never friends after that.
Jesus.
And did you get hit as a kid growing up?
No, I didn't get hit. But my mother
really?
did.
Oh, your mother got hit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mother got hit by my dad, but then she left my dad.
Oh, and your dad didn't hit you?
Yeah, completely made up. Jimi Hendrix's Australian girlfriend Savage's new film, which shows rock star beating up her character. Oh, okay. All my side's inaccuracy has been criticized by Hendrix's friends. His former girlfriend, disgusted by scenes depicting domestic violence, never consulted her about her portrayal. Okay, so that might not be true. But there was another, someone had said that there was a situation where Jimmy was in the other room and he hit his girlfriend. Like someone was talking about it from a first-person perspective. I don't know if that was the girlfriend. The fascinating thing about Jimmy was that he had this gangster manager who had him kidnapped. His manager had him kidnapped so that he could release him, so that he could rescue him, so that he could keep Jimmy on as a client. And this is all that came from a really recent book that was one of the gangster guy's bodyguards, like one of the people that worked for him.
So
Very fascinating.
So he was afraid that Jimmy was going to get rid of him as a manager, so
Exactly.
he engineered a kidnapping that he could solve, and then
Exactly.
Jimmy would feel indebted and bring him on as his manager.
And this guy who wrote this book, I don't know how much of this is real and how much of it's bullshit, but thinks that they murdered Jimi Hendrix, and then right after that, the girlfriend of Jimi Hendrix was thrown off of a roof. Yeah.
Really?
And they said she committed suicide, but he says they threw her off a roof, and she knew about Jimmy's murder.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Stranger things have happened than that, Joe.
Well, that whole business, in many ways, look at Suge Knight, right? That whole business, the music business, has been run by gangsters for a long fucking time. Look at Phil Spector, right? The guy who shot that woman in the face. Like, he used to put guns in people's mouths all the time. That business was run by gangsters forever. So the idea of Jimi Hendrix's manager being a gangster is not outside the realm of possibility. You go back to the Ciro's nightclub days, where it's the Comedy Store is today. That was run by Bugsy Siegel. It was a fucking gangster joint. Well, that's where they had musicians play and fucking Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin played there. I mean,
Oh, really?
that was run by fucking murderers. That was the one reason why everybody was willing to believe that the Comedy Store was haunted. If you look at like the haunted, dictionary of like places or the directory of places, the Comedy Store is like one of the top places on the list in Hollywood. There it is.
I'm pretty sure
Ciro's
it's haunted.
nightclub. That's the fucking main room, man. I perform
Wow.
there. I'm going there tonight. I'll be standing right there where that guy is. I mean, it's crazy that the store is essentially the same fucking place as it was then.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it's haunted.
Dude, they killed a shitload of people in that place. And but that's the front door.
Oh, look how nice that looks.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, that's
now it's
really
all dark and evil.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was eviler then. Now we're just telling jokes.
That was fun that night. I haven't done many sets at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles.
Oh, it's the best.
It was a blast. I really
the
enjoyed
best.
that. Sam Tripoli, thanks for him bringing me on that show.
I'm doing his show tonight.
Oh, okay.
His show tonight is in the main room. The place is the best. It's soaked with history. Look at that hump-point blowgun. See, I just smacked my girlfriend in the face with a grapefruit. See? Look at him. Cigarettes. Smoking cigarettes. Nobody worked out.
Nobody worked.
Everybody
out.
looked like shit. Look at Ronald Reagan. Yeah.
There's Ronald Reagan.
Who's the girl?
I don't know. That's Dean Martin, right?
Nancy Reagan.
That's Nancy?
No.
No.
That's what the picture says.
Really?
It says Nancy and Ronald Reagan.
Wow, she got weird
Jeannie
looking.
Beager Martin. I don't
Jeannie Bigger.
That's Dean Martin, right?
Dean Martin. Wow, Dean Martin looked weird too.
It's just a weird angle.
He's probably hammered. Couldn't keep his eyes open.
So, like, I always wanted to be those guys. Like, I wanted to be Dean Martin. I wanted to be the Rat Pack. I wanted to be
why don't you be Jimmy Dore?
Ray Liotta.
You have a good chance of being Jimmy Dore.
Well, it's hard to find out who that guy is.
Oh, I see. But if you're on the outside, maybe there's a kid right now listening going, God damn it, Jimmy Dore, I want to be you. And you don't even know who the fuck you are.
Well,
Shit.
you know, have you ever thought about this? I've thought about it like this. If somebody would have whispered in my ear when I was 18 years old, you know how I had a lot of anxiety as a kid, like what am I going to do with my life?
Right.
I had no role models to do anything. I grew up in this blue collar neighborhood. I didn't want to do anything anybody fucking did there.
Me too. Same thing. Same story.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
That's how you become a comic.
Yeah. And that's how I became a comic. And if somebody would have whispered in my ear when I was younger, like, hey, this is how it's going to work out, I'd have been a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, but then you would have made it.
Probably
you wouldn't
not.
have made it. No, you had that anxiety is important. The horrible feeling of insecurity, it all pans out because that makes you work. Like, you don't want to be comfortable. That's one of the things that I like to do things that I'm not good at. It's one of the reasons why I like to do yoga. It's one of the reasons why I like to run hills. It's one of the reasons why I like to I do things like archery and bow hunting and stuff like that. It's 'cause it's fucking hard to do. So it's humbling. Jiu-jitsu, it's very humbling. And in doing these humbling things, you're always insecure. You're always struggling. You have to somehow or another constantly be in a state of struggle. But that doesn't mean you have to be in a state of struggle all day, all your life. But you have to understand what that feeling is, because that feeling is the only way you progress. It's the only way you advance. It's the only way you get better at things. You get better at yourself. You get better at life. But you have to go through that all the time. It's a muscle that has to constantly be exercised. It's like you're talking about doing stand-up, like Jerry Seinfeld saying, take 4 days off, and you feel it, take 5 days off, people know it. Yeah, that's the same thing with struggle. You got to constantly be engaged in improvement and trying to figure out how to improve things. That's how you advance. That's how you advance technique. That's how you advance thought. That's how you advance ideas and bits. That's how they progress. You have to feel that fucking uncomfortable feeling that everybody wants to avoid. Everybody wants to feel comfortable.
Well,
Fuck all that.
So when I was on the road, you know, when you were talking about how putting together your next special and how you're going to do it.
Terrified.
And all you have to go through. You know, when I was on the road, I remember, like, even in El Paso, Texas, I'd be working, and I would do 2 shows, and I would go home afterwards to the condo, and I would listen to both shows before I went to sleep, you know. Now, I know most guys didn't do that, you know, but I just had to do it, and it was almost like I was embarrassed to let the other comics know I was listening to my set. But it was like, just like that, it's like, I don't want to be stuck here. I have some place I want to be.
Right.
And I got to get there. And if this helps me get there, I want to get there. I want to figure out what the fuck, how do I get to be like that guy? How do I get to be like Jerry Seinfeld? How do I get to be like Brian Regan? How do I get to be like those people I want to be like? And, you know, I just studied them, and so it's that whole thing of you have to have a desire to be somewhere that you're not.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. But for me, I feel like that takes care of itself if you continue to improve. So my thought has always been on the thing itself, like the craft, the bits, the chunks. And there's some material from my past I'm embarrassed as fuck about. I can't go, like, if I go on YouTube and I see some old thing from 1999 or something, like, ugh, it's fucking death. I can't look at that. But what I'm concerned with is, like, what I'm doing right now. How do I get that better? How do I tighten that up? I'm not thinking one day I want to perform at this place and then I'll have truly made it. That's a trap. But what's not a trap is making the work better, like constantly improving the work. And since I've been focusing on that, the more I focused on that, the better my act has gotten.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You're right about that's a trap. Because, well, why do you think it's a trap when you say, oh, I want to play theater?
Because you're still you somewhere else with that same stupid act.
Yes,
and
that's
then
right.
It still bugs you.
And you think everything's going to be different.
Yeah.
And it's like, and what I think fucks people up when they make it is they're like, I feel exactly the same.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do with them. So that's kind of like where I got. Right? Like, oh, I can do whatever I want, go wherever I want, and I still feel the same. And that's when I started listening to Eckhart Tolle, and I started to try to be present, try to learn how to enjoy the moment more, and the doing.
Yeah.
Right? So when I'm on
doing.
stage, and that's what I realized also is that when I'm on stage, I'm never more present than when I'm on stage.
Right.
Like I am that whatever that magic is to be present. It gives you. It's like when people say they meditate, they have energy after. I have so much energy after I get off stage, even if it's a shitty show.
Right.
Because I'm just being present the whole time. I'm not thinking about my bills or what happened yesterday. I'm just thinking about this fucking moment, and it fuels me. And that's why I just want to go back. I want to figure out how I can go back to being a comedian.
Well, you can be. I mean, you definitely did it the other night. So you just got to do it more.
I'm just pushing myself. I'm pushing myself to get out there more. And
it happens to people where they get a television show, and it happened to me when I got news radio. I was doing very little comedy, and I wasn't writing at all, and my act started to suck. I had the same old stupid act that I had for years. There was a period of like 2 years where I didn't write a fucking single joke. I would just go up and do the same set. I wasn't doing any TV sets, and I just kept bombing. And one time I bombed in front of some writers from news radio, and I realized, like, oh my God, I have to get back to work. And then I really started dedicating myself and really started paying attention again. I bought a recorder so I could record all my sets. I even installed a DAT machine at the Comedy Store. I bought it.
Really?
Installed microphones. Yeah. I changed the microphone. I bought a whole new sound system for the Comedy Store.
Really?
Yeah. So I could start recording my sets and listening to all of them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
Now I just use my phone. With iPhones, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But you gotta be concentrating on the work. That's the thing, man. And the more you concentrate on getting it better, and the more you tighten it up, and that's where the real happiness in performing is in doing a great job. It's not in like the places that you go. I still get nervous. Like if it's some places I'll get nervous. Like I did. The theater at Madison Square Garden, that made me nervous. I was like, holy shit, I'm performing at the fucking Garden. But then after the show was over, I was like, well, that was a show. It's a normal show. It was great.
Yeah.
Everything was great, went well. But it was fucking weird, man.
Isn't it funny? Because you're just mind fucking yourself. Yep. It's the same jokes, it's the same people.
Exactly.
It's just a different brand. So I used to work at this club in Chicago called the Funny Firm, which was a 400-seat room right downtown Chicago. It was a great room. And around the corner was the Improv. And they made it really hard to play the Improv if you lived in Chicago. And so I remember I got a shot to do a set there, and I was freaked out. I didn't have a good set. And I
of course, so much pressure.
I came off, and my friend Steve Seagren goes, it's the same fucking people that are around the corner, Jimmy. They're right here. It's the same fucking people.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know he's right. Yeah. But I still fall into that.
But if you went up a week later, you'd probably be fine.
Yeah. It's just
you did it more often.
It's the newness of the situation.
Well, don't you feel like that's the problem with filming a special? You film a special, it's like, here it is, ready, go.
Yeah.
The camera's on. Oh my God, I gotta get right. Gotta be relaxed. Gotta be normal.
I had one chance when I did my hour special for Comedy Central. I thought we'd shoot 2, and then we put it together. Well, for whatever reason, we only had enough money to shoot 1. I was like, what?
I shoot 4.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice.
I shoot 4, but I could have used the first one. You know why? Because I knew I had 4 barrels. I knew I had 4 shots, but I did it before when I had 2. I did Denver, I had 2, and the first one, a lady heckled me. And I was like, oh no, now I only have 1. Now I have 1. It's terrible, right? So I'm like, you gotta have 4. And 4, I was relaxed. Like I did the Fillmore in San Francisco for my last one, and it felt like regular comedy. It was normal. That's a great place.
Yeah, that's where I did my hour special, was at the Fillmore. Really great place.
Great place. But I'd done that place before. I was comfortable. I love San Francisco. I worked there all the time. So everything it just set right in. But I knew I had 4 shows. Like I feel like too many people put too much pressure on themselves to do 1. And I always remember about Hicks. When Hicks did Relentless, he did it in the UK. And he did 1 big show. And it just was flat. It just seemed flat. He didn't seem loose. It was like he was just going through these motions that he had done before that were funny, but he wasn't connected to it. You could feel the tension of doing 1 show. And I had seen him many, many times. And I remember I watched it with this girl that I was dating, and she goes, he's really interesting, but he's not funny. That's what she said. I was like, damn, bitch.
Wow. It's tough.
He's dead. Don't you know that? How about you shut the fuck up?
Did you rub a grapefruit in her face?
No, a kiwi. Use a kiwi. No.
So, I always thought it was that Bill Hicks. It's hard to capture someone on film as a stand-up. It's hard to capture that. Like Dennis Miller's Black and White. That was I think the greatest example of capturing that. And but Bill, I just thought was like, well, Bill's funny in person, but he doesn't transfer to TV that well because his specials didn't come anywhere close to being how funny he was in real life.
I think he just never. They never got it right. I think they needed to get him at a club.
Yeah,
and
like
they
Sane
needed
Man. You ever see Sane Man?
Yes,
that
would-
captured him.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
They did that at the Houston Laugh Stop.
He did it himself, right?
Yeah. See, but when you do that, then you're getting, a bunch of different sets. You find the right one, and you do it at a comedy club where he's comfortable. I think more people should do sets at comedy clubs and film specials at comedy clubs. I have a couple of different theories for why, but one of the big ones is when you're at home, you're in a living room. It's intimate. You're at your couch, TV's just right there. It's not fucking a million miles away
Right.
on a giant big ass screen. So it feels weird to watch something on, the big ass giant place, 50,000 people like Kevin Hart did his special. I think that it's funny. It's, obviously the material's great delivery and everything like that, but I think everything is enhanced more with an intimate environment. One of my favorite specials that I did at the Comedy Works in Denver. It's like, I think what is that place? It's not even 300 people, I don't think.
Really?
It might be 300.
I just saw Judah Friedlander's, and he did his all in the Comedy Cellar, I think. Right?
Bam, perfect.
And it was all a bunch of different, from over like a couple months. So he just, he would just put his camera in the room.
Great
and
move.
And he did it in black and white.
Oh, see, if you do that, man, you get it.
Yeah.
You get the right show.
Yeah, he did.
It's when you're trying to capture one moment, one night. What are the odds that it's going to be perfect?
Right?
It's too much pressure on you.
You're right. I never thought about that you're in this big, huge thing and people are watching it in their little room, and it makes sense. Yeah, I definitely want to do my next special in a club.
Did you see Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special, the one that he did at the Comedy Store, Belly Room? He did two of them. He did one at a good-sized place in D.C., which I think was like a couple thousand people, and then he did another one at the Belly Room, which was like 70 people. And I was there for that one.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is interesting, man. It's like, it's so conversational, but like when you're at home, it's great because it's like he's right there. You see the people are literally as close to him as you are to me. And then you're right there too. Like you're in the room with them.
I'll check that out. No, I haven't.
It seems intimate. You feel it.
And how is it funny?
It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, okay.
The one in DC is genius.
Oh,
and
yeah?
then the one in the Belly Room is great too, but in a different way because it's more like really current event stuff. Like he's talking about Louis C.K. Like there he is up there. So it's like Louis C.K. and Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey, who's a big part of the material that he was talking about. So, and it was right after it happened. He filmed this in November. So it was just a couple of months ago, and then it was out in New Year's Day.
Oh, I'll check it out. I'll definitely. I have, I have Amazon Prime. I don't like to brag.
Oh, you and 65 fucking million. What is it? 64%? 64%?
64% of the country.
I wonder how many of those people are watching it on TV though. That's the
They're using
thing.
Amazon Prime just for the TV part.
I mean, how many of them are using the TV part of Amazon Prime? Like how many of them are watching? Because I have Amazon Prime. I never
remembered.
I never used it for TV. I've never.
Do you still have old time cable?
I have DirecTV.
Oh, so that's old time cable. So
Sort of, yeah.
I still have it. I like to flip through I like cooking shows and I like watching boxing and.
Yeah, but sports. It's great for live sports.
Yeah. But I don't really. I don't watch the footballs too much anymore. It's just.
Yeah.
I did watch the Super Bowl. It was even though I loved watching New England lose, I didn't really. It didn't really. The game just doesn't excite me anymore. It's just a bunch of fucking millionaires and that kind of. Once they get younger than you too, it's hard to get excited. It was all these different things. Right? I don't know. Is that stupid? I don't know.
I mean, it's only stupid if it's stupid to you.
Okay. I mean, it just was a lot of, and when I moved out from Chicago to LA, sports just seemed so much less interesting. Now, I like watching sports like, I like boxing because it's very much like stand-up comedy. There's no hiding.
Right.
You reveal who you are in the ring,
Yes.
right? And just like as a stand-up, there's no hiding. There's no fucking light show or music underneath. They're fucking dancing girls. It's just fucking you and your ideas. And so that's why I like boxing. And I've realized, again, it's people think I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but I don't like to watch. I like to watch UFC. I like to watch the fighting, but only if you're announcing it because I like the backstories and all that shit that you give to it that no one else seems to be able to do. It just kind of rolls it off of you. It just falls out of your mouth. Other people, announcers, it's just boring, so I don't watch.
Well, that's very nice of you, but it's just because I care about it. That's all it is.
You can sell.
It's been a part of my life since I was a little kid, and so for me it's very important when I'm watching this and explaining what's happening, like physically.
Like to understand what the Gracie brothers and what they did.
Yeah.
And like that's interesting.
Right,
That's what heightens everything. You know, when you're watching and that's why I like to watch boxing, because those guys' stories are always these unbelievable. His mother abandoned him when he was 8. He walked Brazil for 3 years, and then he started boxing. Like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
You know, so so that's the and it's a do or die, and it's one-on-one, and that's why I love boxing.
Well, it's what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about Jay Leno's new show, is that he's actually passionate about it. When someone's passionate about something, it comes through. When it's real, when it's genuine, and if they can articulate it, it comes through. And I think if you're not doing something you're passionate about, understand that from watching someone who is doing something that, like the Jay Leno show or anything along those lines. When you see someone, you go, oh, that's that feeling. That's that magic. That's that thing where someone's like really excited about it. Like it's legit. Like it's in their bones. And if it's not in your bones, man, you better find what is. Because you're missing out on, you're only getting to 7. Life goes to 10. And you're not ever hitting the high spots. You might be fine staying at 7 forever. I've been to 10 too many times.
Yeah.
I like being at 10.
That's the problem. Most people never get to 5. It's amazing. Most people I grew up with and stuff. It's just comedy opened my. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I could see the Sears Tower and the John Hancock Building, which are the 2 biggest buildings in Chicago. You could see downtown from where I lived. Nobody ever went there. It was like, I guess if you grew up in the Bronx, you could see Manhattan, you never went, right? So, and then comedy kind of opened that up for me. I went into those neighborhoods, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I fucking love this city. The whole thing, it was such, like I said, it was such a heady experience for me, and my whole life was ahead of me. And
no matter who you are, if you're a stand-up and you kill, I don't care if you kill at Zanies, it's 150 people, or if you kill at Madison Square Garden, it's still killing. It's the same feeling. It's 10. It's 10. You hit 10. You hit a joke and boom, and you hear the roar, like that's 10.
There's nothing, my brother, I remember the first time I got a paid gig. It was in Wheaton, or Wheeling, Illinois. Anyway, it was $50, and I was telling him I had to drive 50 miles to go make $50 to do comedy, which to me was a victory, right?
Yeah.
And he worked for the power company in Chicago, Commonwealth Edison, and he goes, they'd have to pay me $50 just to drive there. Right? And I'm like, yeah, but when you get there, you have to go to fucking work. When I get there, I'm the center of attention. There's a party happening, and I'm the guest of honor, and I'm going to get a blowjob afterwards.
Whoa.
Which I did that night in a church parking lot. It was fantastic.
Wow, a church parking lot?
Yep. I was like, we're in a parking lot of a church.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's why I loved stand-up comedy. It's like there's nothing like it. Everywhere you go, you're the guest of honor at a party.
That's another thing that people probably never totally understand about stand-up that haven't done it, is you become attractive. Whereas you're just a guy before.
Right.
You're just a guy,
just
a normal guy. Now you're a guy, and girls are going after you.
Yes.
And you're like, what is happening here? I remember the first time that happened, I was stunned. Like, I'd come off stage, I killed, and this girl came right up to me, and she wanted to talk to me. I'm like, is this a trick? Like, some girl in Connecticut, I'll never forget it. She put her hand on my chest, and she was talking to me. You are so funny. How long have you been doing this? Oh, my God, you're hilarious.
You're kidding.
And I was like, what is going on here? This is fake? Is this girl, what is she going to do to me? Is there someone around going to rob me? Like, what's happening? It was so weird. Even when afterwards her and I had sex, I was like, this seems fake. It doesn't even seem real.
First time that happened to me, I was working at Zanies. Maybe I should. Too late. And I come off stage, and this woman came up to me, and she says, "Where are you going?" I go, "I'm going to the bathroom." And she says, "Do you need any help?" And at that club, there's just one. It's not a big bathroom. It's one stall, right? So you get your own room.
Right.
And I go, I don't know if my boss would appreciate that or something like that. And she says, "Oh, I'm here with the boss's wife," which I don't know if she was or not. And so she follows me into the bathroom and gave me a blowjob.
Wow.
I was like, and I had to go up and bring up the middle. It was fucking awesome. I'm like, I love comedy.
Yeah, it's a weird shifting of roles. You know?
Yeah, it was. And I remember my back hurt at the time. I used to have a bad back when I was starting comedy, and I remember I had to like sit on the sink because I got my back, and I sit on the sink, and she's blowing. It was so funny. I loved comedy.
Girls don't get that thing from comedy, though. It's a funny thing that Ali Wong has. She's like, road pussy is amazing. She goes, road dick is. I don't want to do her bit.
Okay.
I don't want to ruin her
Yeah,
bit.
I
But
hear you.
essentially, she's.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin her material, but yeah, essentially that's what she's saying. It's like it's not a good deal for gals.
It must be different. You know, one time I remember I have a big mouth and everything, and so when I started comedy, there was this girl, and she was pretty, and I guess I must have told people I'd like to get her on. I can't wait to work the road with her so I could fuck her, right?
That's horrible. So people hearing that now today, they're
Right.
like,
That would-
Jimmy,
oh, that
Dore,
would be horrible.
You're a piece of shit.
So I don't even know if I said how I said or whatever, but I get confronted by her at a comedy club. This girl comes up to me, and I didn't know she was going to say. She goes, "Hi, Jimmy," and I go, "Hi, how you doing?" She goes, "I heard you said you can't wait to work the road because you wanted to fuck me."
Oh.
And she goes, "Did you say that?" I go, "Sounds like something I would say." And she goes, "Don't you want to know who told me?" I go, "Could be anybody."
Don't you want to know who told me?
And she
It's like
goes-
she ran out of things to say.
Yes. And then she goes, "Well, why did you say that?" I go, "Because you're really pretty and I'm attracted to you." And she totally changed. She was like, "Oh, well, that's okay." She totally changed.
Yeah, but this is a different era.
And we're friends till this day.
But if this
we
happened
didn't, and we
today,
never had sex, by the
she
way.
would write an article for one of them online rags.
You're right. I
Yeah.
would get in trouble for
You'd
that.
be a piece of shit.
But I was a kid. I was just starting comedy. I didn't know and my asshole from a hole in the ground.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about that. And when she said, she goes, "Why did you say?" I'll never forget. "Why did you say that?" And I just decided to be honest. And I go, "Because you're pretty and I'm attracted to you." She was like, "Oh, that's okay." Like, I think she thought I was saying
Right.
she was a slut, and that's
Right.
not what I was
Oh,
saying.
right.
That's not what I was saying. And I was saying she's fucking beautiful. I would like a chance with her.
Yeah, I get it.
I would like
yeah.
a chance with her. That's what I was saying.
Right.
And she took it. I was saying she was a whore. So that's not what I was saying. So she totally. It was that. That's the only experience I have like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird time if we remove flirting and clumsy attempts at
Yeah.
sex, and there's a lot of that stuff that turns out to be fun. It's funny too that like one thing that you could say to one person is highly offensive, and you could say it to another person is exactly what they wanted to hear.
Yes.
It's like, and you really don't know until you say
Until
it.
you say it or do
But
it.
then you read it written on paper, it's like, yeah, it sounds terrible, but in the right circumstance, that's the thing to say. Nobody wants to admit that. Like, I dated this girl once.
You
I'll,
see it
I'll never
written on
forget this.
paper. You ever read when it's read back to you in court? It sounds horrible, but in the moment, go ahead.
There was a girl that I dated once, and we were making out, and you know, we're getting into it hot and heavy. She grabs my dick, and I said, "I want you to get on my knees, get on your knees and suck my cock." She goes, "I've always wanted someone to tell you that to me."
No kidding.
And she drops down to her knees, and like she's fucking going at it. But when she looked at me, she goes, "I've always wanted someone to say that to me." I'm like, "What? I hit the jackpot, baby! Come on, 7." But if you could say that to some girls, she'd be like, "No." Like, all right.
That's the whole
What are you
thing.
gonna say? Like, you don't know in the moment. Like, I just like it was hot and heavy and crazy quick, and I was like, I'm just gonna roll the dice. Let's just see. Let's go for 3 lemons. Cling, 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 cling.
Go for 3 lemons.
Let's see what the fuck happens. You never know. But
You don't make any calls, you don't make
Right.
any sales.
But this is 1993.
Yeah.
You know, try doing that in 2018. You can
Well,
get into real trouble.
You know, I just talked to a guy, and he owns a bar, and we're talking about #MeToo, and he says, you know, the thing is that women don't have to hit on men. Men are always the aggressor, right? And so that causes a lot of problems, you know, like I'll see a guy with his group of friends, and he'll slink over to try to talk to this girl, and he's nervous, and he says, "Hey, you want to dance?" And she'll shut him down, and he'll walk back over and like, "Oh, that fucking bitch," you know. And then he goes, that's what's, because he's got to save face, and women
Right.
don't know what that's like. And I was thinking,
unattractive women do, though. I mean, one of the things that you see from the same people, whether it's men or women, is people that are constantly shut down and ridiculed and mocked by the opposite sex become very bitter and angry. You see it sometimes from unattractive women who have been shit on by men, and you see it from unattractive men who've been shit on by women. They develop this animosity towards the opposite sex, and it's very unfortunate. And a lot of it comes from that feeling that you just get from someone when you make it advance, you become vulnerable. And look, if you're a guy, not a good-looking guy, and you take a chance at some girl, she's with her friends at a bar, she might mock you openly in front of her friends, and it's ruthlessly painful. And she's just not attracted to you. She wants to shut down any possibility that you might have in your head. You go back over there, and this happens time and time again. you could easily develop animosity towards women or develop a very bad association with the opposite sex. You see that from women. There's a lot of women that I know that have real issues with men, and they're very unattractive. And they'll say really gross generalizing things about men. They will make these gross, men are this, and men suck, and men aren't funny, and men aren't this, and men are that. And then you look at them and you're like, oh, well, you're obese. You're unattractive, and your experiences with men have probably largely been of rejection and bad things. On top of all the realities of what men are capable of and the horrible things that men absolutely do. No denying that. But to have this gross generalization about an entire gender based on what? Well, a lot of it is based on their own life experiences. Meanwhile, you go to some really attractive girl who's like, go to, fill in the blank, some really attractive girl who's always had men hit on her. She might be, oh, men are gross, men are disgusting. I'm just waiting for the right guy. She's not lumping all men into this group. But many women that are unattractive and have a hard time with men have the same response towards men that many unattractive men have towards women. It's a fucking hard roll of the dice to be born in a way that's just without any doing of your own, completely outside of your control. You're just not sexually attractive to the opposite sex.
So, you know what? I didn't realize that men had this kind of anger towards women. I didn't realize women had it towards men. But porn, it turns me off a lot. Most of it is like this anger.
Oh, like slapping and shit.
Yeah, and forcing and jamming the cock and on your and all this and spitting in there. I'm like, ooh. What the fuck is going on? So this is, I don't know what that is. I like, when I have sex, I like to please a woman, I like her to be happy and comfortable, and I don't, that whole so that's when I realized, oh, there's a bunch of fucking dudes who hate women and angry, and they get off on like humiliating them. Like, I don't get off on that.
Yeah, there's definitely that. There's, I had a friend, and he was an unattractive guy, and I watched him go from being sort of having these idealistic ideas about the one day he had a girlfriend at the time, and turned out his girlfriend was cheating on him, and then he had other girls and they were trying to get his money, and then he just became this bitter fucking guy. Like, over the time that I knew him, he just became a woman hater. I mean, straight up woman hater. He'd hit on girls and they would turn him down. He'd be like, fucking dykes. He'd just be angry at women. Like, he associated, and I watched it from afar. He associated women with negative feelings. He associated them with rejection. He associated them with callousness. And I have a friend who's overweight, and she feels like that about men sometimes. So, like, men are shit, and they're insulting, and they're this and that. Like, some are, yes. Some people are terrible. Some males and females are terrible. But when you're picking, I'm on team penis and you're on team vagina, we've all lost because you're crazy. You're going to align yourself with 150 million people that how many do you know? Do you know 150 of those 150 million people? Because that's a lot. Right. You probably don't even know 100. You probably don't even have an intimate relationship with 150 men. So you're going to lump all 150 million into the same group that you're against, and 150 million women into the group that you're with? That's crazy. We're humans. We're supposed to be on team human, and we're supposed to all figure out how to get along. But along the way, we're trying to find mates, and we're trying to find companionship, and the reality of that is it is a messy proposition, and some people get left out, and some people get shoved aside, and some people get attacked, and some people get diminished, and some people feel terrible about the experience, and some people aren't good at it, and some people are better at it than others, and some people use money and influence, and some people use their looks, and the whole thing is just, it's not perfect. This is not some egalitarian adventure.
So I never watched Sex in the City, but my wife did.
Good for you.
And
good for you.
She talks about.
I watched it once because Brian Callen was on. I was like, Jesus, Brian, don't give up your day job.
It's definitely a show for women.
Wait a minute. What are you saying? Are you a sexist? God.
But
Jimmy
my wife
Dore.
says about that show, because it was on her when she's watching, and she's like, these women all got laid, and it was all about them wanting to get laid, and they had resiliency, and they weren't snowflakes, and they were, and so
right.
And these women could fucking run in heels, and all this. They had grit,
right?
And she's like, she doesn't feel that that's what's happening today.
Well, there's certainly no role models like that. But you know what's really interesting? Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall fucking hated each other.
No
And,
kidding?
Yeah, there was a thing yesterday with Kim Cattrall was saying
Really?
she's not my friend. She's never been. I don't want your sympathy because Kim Cattrall's was her brother died. Someone in her family died, and she sent her best wishes, and she's like, she's not my friend. She's never been my friend. I don't like her. Yeah, and apparently they were just. Yeah, and she said, she's a shitty person, and she said all this
Really?
fucked up stuff about her. Like right after her brother died, I was like, Jesus.
Wow.
That's what it was? Her brother? Yeah. Yeah, like the whole thing is just like, oh, so this whole thing about this camaraderie and this union of women all together and fighting against odds.
Guess not.
Horseshit. Yeah. Horseshit. People hated each other. It's like The Rock and Tyrese and Fast and the Furious. They didn't really like each other. It's a scam.
That's fascinating. She's married to that Matthew Broderick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't follow that stuff, but
Yeah.
whatever. That's a good point I think my wife made.
Yeah. It was a good point that women with grit. Yeah. I mean, you don't get what are the role models today? You have the Kardashians, you have Sex in the City. I mean, what is that?
And how did
Housewives, Real
And
Housewives.
how did Kim Kardashian get famous?
Sucking dick.
It was
Yeah.
it was a porn tape, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she released a sex tape that was apparently engineered by her family.
That's what I heard
Yeah,
too. Is
yeah.
that crazy?
But it's not. If you see what that lady's done, like how she's organized it, look, and it's been very successful.
She had a plan?
Yeah, if you look at it in terms of a financial venture, it's
Oh, my
been
God.
a windfall.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Amazingly successful. But chaos. In a sense, they're a type of a royalty in a lot of ways.
No
It's
doubt.
like modern plastic royalty.
Yes, it's the culture of nothing.
Yeah. Culture of fake asses and nonsense.
But
yeah.
they're talented, I'm sure.
No. No. They're talented at doing that. I mean, it's not a talent, but it's they've been wise strategically in keeping themselves out in the public eye. I mean, I'm not a Kim Kardashian or a Kardashian family hater by any stretch of the imagination. I've had a couple of bits about them where I kind of mocked them, but I don't hate them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. I know a lot of people that are way dumber than them that I don't hate. Why don't I hate them? Because they're famous? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't hate them at all. I mean, I don't even know them or watch their shows. I think the Kim is really pretty. But I just think what it says about the culture, right?
Yes.
So it makes you it reminds you, hey, your culture is vapid.
Yeah, well, part of our culture is that. And I think they came along at an amazing time, the time of social media, where it's just all about likes and butt pictures that have been doctored up by Photoshop. And the whole thing is really fascinating.
Yes.
And then, the father is like, well, I'm not getting enough attention as a guy. Fuck it, I'm going to be a chick. And then he gets amazing amounts of attention. I mean, you could say that I'm being callous, but that's what happened. That's what happened. And
That's so funny. I never thought of it like that.
It's 100%. He's a male Kardashian.
He
became a Kardashian. Yeah.
That's an amazing way to look at it.
Dude, I had a bit about it in my last special. My last special.
Oh, yeah?
About it.
Did you get in trouble?
No, I didn't. I covered all my bases. But it was basically about. I can't do the bit, but I'll tell you about it afterwards. No, it's on Triggered on Netflix. Go watch it, fuckers.
Okay. All right.
Let's wrap this up, Jimmy Dore.
Okay, let's wrap this
listen,
up.
man, I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this. This was really fun.
Yeah, this was great. I'm really I'm glad you invited me. And
Let's do it more often.
Big fan of your comedy, and I would love to do it again. And
Yes.
hopefully if you could ever come out to Pasadena, check out my show.
Listen, I'm out in Pasadena all the time, so let's make it happen.
All right, we'll do.
Jimmy Dore, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy_Dore on Twitter. You got Instagram or no?
No.
Good for you. Fucking no. He doesn't need it. Grapefruit in your face. Bye, everybody.
All right, thanks, pal.